agenda tonight. Our outgoing and incoming mayor is en route. He had a ball game out in Elizabeth, and he should be here within a half an hour. So we've kind of rearranged the schedule tonight, and we're going to do some presentations before we farewell our outgoing council members and swear in our new council members. If we can have the roll call, please.
Yes. Mayor Levy's absent. Mayor Pro Tem Harvey.
Here.
Councilmember Carr.
Here.
Councilmember Matthews.
Here.
Councilmember Saunier.
Here.
Councilmember Sawyer.
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Here.
Thank you.
For the last time.
For the last time. And join me now in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
So in order for us to keep the meeting moving, we're going to start with ceremonies and presentations and appointments, but 3A is the Colorado Association of Chief of Police presentation of accreditation to our Woodland Park Police Department. So, Jim, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Council. I'm filling in for Chief DeYoung, who's out of town, and I would like to introduce to you Chief Derek Harvey from Canyon City, who is going to make the presentation to the Woodland Park Police Department. So I'll turn it over to him first.
Mr. Harvey, come
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, citizens of Woodland Park. So my name is Derek Harvey. I'm the current Chief of Police in Canyon City and also a member of the Colorado Association of Chiefs of Police and the Secretary-Treasurer for the board as well. So on March 15th, I was requested to come and do an actual assessment on the Woodland Park Police Department. And for those of you who don't know very much about the accreditation program, out of the 246 agencies, police agencies in the state of Colorado, only 55 have actually attained state accredited status. And Woodland Park is going to, tonight, will be one of those 55 that actually is an accredited agency. So what we think about with that is there are both national standards and state standards. And with the state standards, there are 213 different standards the agency has to comply with. What that entails is not only written policy, but also protocol, audits, reports, things to show that they are complying with those 213 standards that cover everything from victims' rights to evidentiary property, found property, use of force, complaints from citizens and internal investigations, actual criminal investigations, pursuits, public information, social media, training, high-risk and hostage situations, mutual aid agreements, and civil process. And that's not all of them. Those are just a highlight. So when you think about accredited status, it doesn't mean a whole lot to some. But when you think about what college you went to, accredited status was very important. If you think about a hospital that you would go to, why would you go to a hospital that doesn't meet best practice standards at a national standard? The same thing is also true for law enforcement. So this is a big deal, and the department worked very hard under the leadership of Commander Chris Adams to try and come into compliance with those 213 standards. And myself and Commander Pat Rigdon from the Colorado Springs Police Department came and looked at all the different files that Chris Adams had put together, spoke with folks, and I'd like to recognize Detective Mike McDaniel for his efforts with the evidentiary property and Supervisor Jennifer Tobis for her work in the communication center. This is not a single person effort. The entire department needs to come together and work together to make sure that they meet those standards, and we didn't give them an easy pass. There were some things that we asked questions about, and actually a couple of policies that ended up being tweaked to better comply with some standards. And not that they weren't in compliance prior to, but there was a better way to do it. And so the chief, as well as Commander Adams, recognized that and changed some policies to better protect the organization and the community as it relates to evidentiary property. And so for that, my report was finalized and submitted to the president of the Colorado Association of Chiefs of Police, who has approved and awarded the Woodland Park Police Department accredited status with all 213 standards as recognized on our plaque here. So I'd like, yeah, go ahead. So if it's okay, Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to invite the members of the police department here to come up and actually receive this award with Commander Holleran and any council members ingoing or outgoing that would like to be there as well.
We'll be right behind you.
Sounds good. Congratulations.
Chief, I'd like to
Mr.
thank you
Harvey,
and
I was going to thank you.
Oh.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Jim.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Chief Harvey, thank you very much. And as you said, this is not an individual award, but an award for all the men and women of the Woodland Park Police Department. And I'd like to thank Mike. And unfortunately, Jennifer's not here. She's taking a vacation. Go figure. Well, actually, she's going to a conference, not a vacation. But I'd like to thank for all the hard work. And Chris Adams put in about 1.5 years of work to get us where we are. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for Mayor Levy as well. All right, next on the agenda is the Main Street Quarterly Financial Report. And I understand Stephanie Alfieri and Lynn Jones are going to make that presentation. Lynn, if you could introduce yourself and give us your address, please.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Alfieri. I'm at 361 West Highway 24. Thank you, council, staff, and audience. We're going to start tonight with a presentation by Gail Langley. She's with the State of Colorado Department of Local Affairs, also known as DOLA.
And Gail, if you can introduce yourself and give us an address, please.
Absolutely. Hello, good evening. My name is Gail Langley, and I work for the Department of Local Affairs located at 1313 Sherman Street in Denver, Colorado. We need to turn on. We have a small PowerPoint presentation. Give me a sec. Is that on your screen? Yes, ma'am. I think we need to change the view. I don't have glasses on.
Kip can do it.
Let me set this here. I was given a couple of minutes to talk, and I'm extremely honored to be here. And I would like to say thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, City staff, and what a group here tonight. As I said, my name is Gail Langley, and I've been with the Department of Local Affairs as the state coordinator for the Main Street program. It'll be a year next week. So I'm fairly new to the government side of things, but prior to that, I was the Main Street manager in Granby, Colorado. So having that boots on the ground, that understanding and knowledge of what it's like to run a Main Street program and the issues that face most of our communities with funding challenges and finding grants and getting community engagement is what my passion is. So I am here to present a little bit and a real quick overview. I want to do the reinvestment statistics of what the program is in terms of value from a state level. And then I'm going to dial it down and I'm going to talk specifically about what the Main Street program is and means to Woodland Park. And then we always get asked, well, what's in it for me? What's the incentives? What's the contribution that DOLA is making to our community? So I'm going to cover real quickly the financial incentives and resources that we bring to each community that's a part of the program. So I'm not going to read this. You guys got a bigger screen than I do, and I don't have on my glasses. But I'll let you read the foundation of the program, but I just wanted to state on this particular slide that the Main Street Movement has been around for 35 years. It is a national program that today has 2,500 communities involved in it all across the country. About half of those are rural communities facing issues, as we all face here in the state of Colorado. And the other ones are urban communities, which our particular program in the state is mostly focused on rural to date. But the real point of the program is to take a look at the uniqueness of our communities and preserve, restore, and maintain your identity for your community through historic preservation and through good techniques that you use to engage your community's downtown revitalization efforts. And the one thing everyone can see in the last couple of years is the movement to move back to downtowns is growing, and it's growing across the country, and it's growing in rural America. And it's not only the younger generations, but it's the older generations like me, admitting that I'm in the baby boomer era. But they want to come back to a downtown that's revitalized, that's growing, where they can live, shop, eat, work, and play. And that's why you see so many of our communities throughout the nation and across the state really taking a hard look at preserving their downtowns and making it ready for the next generation. Is there a way to change? Well, this will work. Anyway, this is on a high level. This is what the state of Colorado did in 2017. And I'm going to go through these numbers quickly because really I want to dial it down to Woodland Park and what services we are to offer to you. But from a state level, $109 million were invested in our 19 communities last year. And there is 19 communities, and the program's soon to be 20 in a couple of weeks. But if you look at the slide or the bar that talks about public versus private investment, for every dollar that was invested from the private sector, $3 of public money went back into your community in terms of revitalizing that. That's a 3-to-1 ROI, which a lot of people are always asking about ROIs. So I thought that might be a good number to point out, and I'll show you what it is in your community. And then from a job standpoint, 206 net full-time jobs were created last year and 270 part-time jobs. Some of the other statistics that we track, and this is always interesting to see what's happening in our downtowns, is last year in the state level, we added 111 new businesses, and an astounding 163 buildings were improved or rejuvenated. And this is my favorite slide. Wait till I get to yours. This is really the heart and soul of what the Main Street program is. It's about the community, it's about engagement, and it's about involvement. So from the state level, there were 259 sponsored events all through the state for our 19 communities, with over 209,000 people attending those. Those people came into the downtowns, they shopped, they possibly stayed, they enjoyed the events and activities, and they got to see some of the assets that our communities offer, such as parks and recreational opportunities. From an individual volunteer hours, we clocked 19,000 volunteer hours in these 19 communities. And if you use a kind of a rule of thumb that we use on the national level at $25 per hour, that has a value of in-kind services of $468,000. So what does this mean in terms of Woodland Park? Hold your breath. Last year, Woodland Park had $4 million invested in public and private partnerships in your downtown. And if you look at the split between public and private investment, it again is about a 3-to-1 ratio, showing for every dollar that private investment makes, you get $3 of public investment, helping to rebuild some of your uniqueness in your downtown. Last year you had 9 full-time jobs added, and that's net, and you had 2 part-time jobs added. The new businesses added in your community were 3. That may seem small, but sometimes just 1 opening. in a community can make a huge difference in getting people excited about what's happening in your downtown. And this one's astounding. You had 15 buildings that were remodeled or improved on your downtown. And I've been coming to Woodland Park for years and years and years. I am telling you, when you drive into your community, it has a facelift. It has changed with some of the construction projects that you lived through with CDOT. It really strikes me that your community is engaged and you have a nice facelift on that, and you're continuing to implement those programs. So now my favorite slide. Last year, Main Street held 7 events. You had over 7,000 people come into your downtown to attend those. And I'm sure if you looked at your sales tax numbers that you guys collect on a monthly basis, that you can see for those weekends when you had those events that you probably saw a spike in your sales tax. But here's the one I really want to key in on. You had over 2,700 hours of volunteer time, working not only to run events but to manage programs. Woodland Park had, out of all of our communities, the highest number of volunteers and the highest volunteer hours of any other community in the state. To me, I get goosebumps. To me, that just speaks volume for the type of engagement that you have down here, because this is a program, it's a platform, but really it's all about the people in your community that are committed to making a difference, to rolling up their sleeves. And one of the projects that I had the privilege of attending a design committee last fall with Sally and the Main Street Design Group was the design committee decided that they were going to work with the town in a collaboration to go out and actually do a survey of the condition of your sidewalks. They walked each block individually. They took photographs and they mapped out where you were from your downtown level and worked with the town to look at what the needs were, prioritize what needed to be done, and then get it planned in the budget. And I just think that speaks volume of how Main Street and the towns can effectively work together. So last, if you just put $1 on that in-kind service, using the $25 that we use nationally as a standard, that's $68,000 worth of in-kind services from the people in your community. I think that's amazing. So what are the service and benefits? What does DOLA bring to your program? Well, first and foremost, we need another round of applause to the Main Street community. We have 3 tiers in the Main Street program. The entry level is candidate, the intermediate level is designated, and the top tier is called graduated. Woodland Park has just moved to the designated status right after the first of the year. Would you give them a round of applause? So along with that status comes some additional financial incentives. Moving from a candidate to a designated, you now have mini grant funds to the tune of $5,000 per year. Typically, those have been used for downtown beautification projects. The money that you guys received from us last year was used for your Antler Alley project, which is stunning, by the way. The next financial incentive we give to our communities is right now, we're at $3,000 in scholarship funding to our Main Street communities, and that's used for 2 required trainings per year. The annual National Main Street Conference was just a couple of weeks ago in Kansas City, and then our fall summit meeting, which we hosted, or you hosted here, and we held the meeting here last fall. So we really appreciated the hospitality and the use of your facility to have all of the Main Street managers throughout the state come together for education and networking. The third thing that we offer, and I'm going to show you specifically what that means to Woodland Park, is we offer various consulting services to our community. And we actually work with the community on what they need to move up in the tiers, and we offer those people coming into your community to do training. And we also offer services in terms of our staff at DOLA. There's 3 of us. There's myself, there's Johanna Jameson, who is our economic development specialist. And then we are very fortunate, we're only one of a few communities in the state that has a full-time architect on staff. And that position is funded in part through History Colorado. And he is out traveling. He started about 6 weeks ago. He's traveling across the state, getting to know our communities. But what he can help with is with a building owner that maybe wants to rehabilitate a building and needs some help on understanding tax credits and incentives, or possibly doing some rendering and some sketches for a particular building or a streetscape design. He is only on our staff to provide education and advocacy for our communities. So we'll be working with Darlene and her team on getting him down here for a visit and seeing how he can also give you some additional services. And then on trainings and webinars, we have at least 4 per year. Last month, for example, we did a webinar that lasted about an hour, and it was hosted by one of our regional managers. And what we did was we covered all of the different grant and funding opportunities which are at DOLA, which some of them I didn't even know just yet. And we covered what the eligibility requirements of those were, what the funding mechanisms were, so that we can get some of our communities plugged into taking advantage of different services. And then resources, I think you guys have a packet that was passed out. You guys should all have them. This gets into a little bit about what I'm going to talk about in a minute on telling your story. But this is our latest communications packet that we have distributed to our communities, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. Inside there, you're also going to find the statistics from a state level that I showed you in earlier slides. But the one I really want to point out is just hot off the press last month. This is a Understanding Certified Local Governments in Colorado guide, and it's meant for town councils, commissioners, planners, engineers. And it is a step-by-step workbook of how to designate historic properties, what the process of that is, and it will save you so much time in trying to designate or find out whether or not a building is eligible. It's online as well, but this will be something that Larry can talk to your individual building owners if you are pursuing a project that looks like a rehabilitation on your downtown.
Our Historic Preservation Committee is aware of that guide, and we do have it. And I would like to ask you, Ms. Langley, if you can cut to the chase. We have a long agenda tonight.
Okay. I only got 2 slides left. So this is the consulting dollars that we're bringing into your community in the last year. There's 4 of them. I'll let you read. It's a total of $17,000. When you add the mini grants and the scholarships to that, it's $25,000 in financial incentives that we're bringing into Woodland Park. So here's a couple of pictures of the joint projects that we've done together through other partnerships. You've got the rest area that was done in conjunction with CDOT and CDPHE. You've got the kiosk that was done in the Antler Alley with DOLA grant money, and you got the murals that was done in conjunction in partnership with the Arts Council. So resource page, just Google DOLA Main Street. You'll pull us up. There's lots of resources. We want to thank you, and I'm going to pass the baton to Lynn and Stephanie. I'm sorry if I took a few minutes too early. I was told I had 8. If I went over that, I apologize. But thank you for your time, and it's an honor to be here. And I will stick around after their presentation if you have additional questions.
Thank you. And I know you have some handouts in the back as well, correct?
I'm not sure.
There's a pile back there of something.
That might be the Main Street team. Thank you.
Mrs. Langley.
Lynn Jones. I live at 260 Morning Sun Drive and own a business at 110 West Midland Avenue.
And again, Stephanie Alfieri. I'm at 361 West Highway 24.
And we'll move this right along. So, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, City staff, audience, thank you so much for having us here. We're here to present to you our quarterly update and to ask for the remainder of the financial support that's part of the 2018 budget for the Main Street organization. So I serve on the promotions committee, and that's part of Main Street, and Stephanie and I are going to take you very quickly through the rest of our presentation. Right here. So the mission of our Main Street program is to enhance the quality of life in Woodland Park by engaging the community in historic preservation, downtown revitalization, economic development by promoting a strong business climate. We recognize as a nonprofit organization that our success is dependent upon partnering and collaborating with other organizations such as the Downtown Development Authority, the Chamber of Commerce, the city, our business owners, and many other community organizations. So what are we excited about to share? One is the Nonprofit Expo that took place last weekend. This was the first nonprofit expo that was hosted by Main Street. 35 nonprofit organizations got to not only share their services with the public who attended, but also connect with other nonprofit organizations in attendance. So we received great feedback and many requests to hold this event again. We became a member of the Colorado Springs Visitors Bureau. You have a vacation guide in front of you, and there are extra copies in the back for the audience. And if you flip, as you're looking at it, to the Mountain Communities section, you'll see that Woodland Park Main Street invites visitors to play, shop, and dine in our beautiful mountain town. What this membership provides to Main Street is really an extension of our marketing that we do and promoting of our local businesses and events. And we'll be using the Visitors Bureau this year to promote our 4th of July event. And speaking of the 4th of July event that's coming up, planning and preparation is well underway. And this is a huge collaboration between Main Street, Build a Generation, the city, and many other organizations. The primary responsibilities for Main Street are to secure sponsors and vendors, to promote the event, and also to coordinate volunteers for the event. So we're very excited with all of the organizations that have been involved in all of the activities. Last year, the attendance grew by 100%. There were 4,000 people here, and we are very much looking forward to the event this year. So with that, I'll turn it over to Stephanie.
So thank you, Lynn. This is a high-level snapshot of our current first quarter expenses. We also included the expected DOLA grant funding for this year, as well as what is my favorite thing to talk about, which is volunteer hours. In the first quarter, we've reported 571 volunteer hours, which equates to just shy of 15,000 in-kind labor wages. With this, you might wonder where those hours are going. Included in your packets that I believe you have is our 2018 work plan. It outlines 16 different items or projects, promotions, events. That's where all those hours are going into to make those things happen. While we're on this, I would just reiterate our request for the remainder of our budget for 2018 from the city. And on the previous slide, we did show that part of that DOLA grant funding we have listed as depot building, as far as collaborating with many partners in the community this year towards the renovation of the depot building in downtown Woodland Park. One of our favorite things to do is obviously hear the impact that our organization has on the community. So we have just two quick testimonials we want to share with you. The first is from Susan Olmstead. She's the owner of Kitchen Connections. That's on Main Street in the center of Woodland Park. And she says, Main Street has been so supportive from the time I opened my doors, and they continue to help small business still today. You can't put a price tag on the work that they do for our community. The crosswalk project by the city and CDOT was exactly what Woodland Park needed with our busy streets. Makes it possible for travelers or visitors to safely cross, which in turn gets them coming into my store. The second testimonial we have is from this lady right next to me. We're very happy that she's here to share in her own words the impact that Main Street has had on her new business, Colorado Gear Lab. Lynn?
So George and I are very proud to be new business owners here in the community, and we are very thankful to the community support and especially to Main Street. They really helped make our opening day on February 10th really special. Main Street has made us feel valued. They have supported our business. Members of the board and community showed up on our opening event. They even bought stuff, which was really great. But they continue to support us through social media advertising and also promoting our business to other businesses in the community, and we really appreciate the support.
Thank you, Lynn, and thank you for this opportunity to present to you. The last highlight we want to leave you with is a video that pertains to the Shop Local. It's a national campaign. We're involved with it every year, and it showcases many of our businesses in our downtown area. Thank you. That is all we have. Hopefully that was quick enough for
you. We may call you back, ladies. Do we have questions for on the presentation? There he is. Hold on, folks. Who won? Sorry.
Yeah.
Mayor, we're just received the presentation from Main Street on their quarterly financial report, and I asked Lynn and Stephanie to come back to the podium so I could ask a couple of questions. Sorry, ladies. The question I had first is I appreciate the Wave Talk financial presentation, but specifically, can you tell us what you used the $12,000 for?
Yes. So I included our first quarter financials in your packet. It's rather lengthy, and in the interest of time, I am happy to go over those with anyone that's interested, including audience as well, whenever is convenient for you.
I'd like to know tonight what you spent the $12,000 on.
So the majority of it, as you can tell from the high-level snapshot, is operations. That was about, let me go back to my slide. So training and conference is just under $2,000. All of that is reimbursable by DOLA. As Gail stated, there is up to $3,000 available in scholarships every year for that.
So you have to pay that up front, and then you hope for the reimbursement from DOLA?
Yes. The operations cost was about $5,200. That includes our contract labor, as well as things like website maintenance, the insurance, things of that nature. And then we also have promotions, which is basically all of our work for promoting through Facebook and the web page. I think that's about it.
So $5,200 for contract labor, insurance, and rental, website maintenance.
Yes.
And for the remaining amount that was budgeted but not committed, what would the use of that money be?
Again, the same. We are going into our 2 busiest quarters, so there's a lot of promotion that goes into that. There's a lot of operations behind the scenes that luckily our contract labor takes care of so that the volunteers can be out there putting their effort towards the events.
And what is contract labor?
So we have 4 different. One is for our Main Street Program Coordinator. The other one is for Creative Concepts, which is our website maintenance as well as our Facebook, and our administrative assistants doing our minutes, preparing them, sending them out to the board. And then we have a small contract for website maintenance. And I should clarify, the 2 different contracts, Creative Concepts updates our web page content versus the website maintenance contract that actually maintains the site.
And then my final question, and I'll open it to the rest of the council, is how do you track volunteer hours? What is the definition of volunteer hour?
So there's a number of different levels within our when our board meets. We track those hours during board meetings or anything they're required to be at and who's in attendance. We also have our committees, 4 different committees, and as they meet, the committee chair also records who's in attendance at those meetings. And then we do reach out to all of the volunteers for events and such to report their hours and the time they've spent volunteering for Main Street.
You do not count the hours of staff, however.
No.
And then finally, you've mentioned the support of the depot building as well as the crosswalk project. What was Main Street's involvement in those 2 projects? Because I'm not aware that Main Street did anything with the depot project. I'm a member of the Historic Preservation Committee, and I don't recall a Main Street contribution to that.
We have not. That's something that we're looking for this year, to collaborate with the community partners to go ahead and get started on that renovation. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to that building, and we have certainly discussed using our DOLA grant funds to go towards that renovation this year.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank
and
you.
I did want to clarify, we do not report the contracted labor that we have. We do not report the hours they're paid for, but oftentimes they will volunteer separately outside of their contracted services.
Thanks for that distinction.
Yep.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Council, any other questions? Stephanie, I'm sorry I missed it, but it sounds like you had a great presentation. I'm sure there's a couple hundred people here rather not. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Suzanne, where should we go?
Mayor, does council want to vote on allowing Main Street to have the remainder of their funds this evening, or would you like to bring that back to the next council meeting? Next council meeting?
Next council meeting when we've seated the new council.
Okay, I'll put that on the agenda. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
And now we're on the outgoing statements, sir.
Okay, so we are on 3D, so everybody knows where I'm at. And farewell to and statements by outgoing city council members. And gosh, Kenny, would you like to start, sir?
I guess I could do that. Been here before. Quite a crowd tonight. Pleased to see everybody, and we've had good turnout for a lot of meetings over the last several years. Just a few things. As most of you know, I don't usually have a lot to say, except when I think it's really important, but I will say these things. We've been here 33 years. My dad and his dad owned small businesses in southern Indiana. He always told me, and many people have heard me say this before, but if you live and work in a small community, get involved. I really, really believe that. Don't just sit in the bar and complain about things. Get involved. I'm glad to see new faces running, and I want to see those people continue to run for things. As you've seen with all the volunteer work we have, there's plenty of opportunity in this community to get involved. I'd highly recommend, since it's the route that I took, for those looking to get on council in the future, Planning Commission is a great start and a great way to kind of get a good feel for what's going on in the city. It's not required, but it's a good start to get on the council. I would like to say thanks, first of all, to David Buttery, who I don't think is here, but thanking him and Suzanne and all of staff for all their hard work. They make our job so much easier and better and more accurate. I really have trusted that staff. They've been very good to us over the years, and I just thank you all so much.
Thank you.
You really make it work a lot easier for all of us up here. I'd like to give thanks to the previous councils for appointing me to 10 years on Planning Commission. Thanks to the community for electing me to 2 different city council terms of 4 years each. The current election, I think, has proven one thing, and I think we've all known that. One vote makes a difference. Get out and vote. You can make a difference. Don't ever say that, oh, it's not going to matter, they're going to do this or do that. That's not true, and I think we've proven that. So next time something comes up, let's get everybody involved. We want a good feel for what everybody in this community wants, and that's what voting is all about. I will say, for those here on council and those coming to council and those future people, something that I've always believed in, that differences of opinion and ideas are welcome. They're needed. Clark Becker, our previous mayor here, once told me if we all agreed, we didn't need to have council. We need those differences of opinion. We want to hear them. When I was on Planning Commission, we would vote on things, and all of a sudden I'd hear somebody say no on a vote, and I hadn't heard anything from them. And we'd stop right then. I'd say, well, why are you voting no? I want to know. It's not that I will always agree on those things, but we need to hear both sides of every story. And then the key is be respectful of the other person's view. You don't have to agree with it, but respect their point of view and hopefully learn something from it. The other thing I've always said that I think is really difficult in this position, but we have to strive to do this, is to put yourself in the city or this community's shoes, not in your own shoes. When you step up here, you're representing all of you, not representing me. That's hard to do, because we all have our backgrounds and our experiences, and those are going to come to play a little bit, but you have to try. And I just encourage everybody involved to continue to do that and to do it with respect. Thanks again to everyone, especially my wife Julie, who has supported me through all the regular meetings, special meetings, executive sessions, countless hours of study. Thank you. Good luck to the new council. It's been a pleasure serving this community, and I look forward to maybe another 33 years up here. 18 up here, 33 in town, I should say. Thank you.
Mayor, excuse me, Mr. Perkins would like to say something.
Okay, great.
David Perkins, 148 Illini Drive, Woodland Park. Tonight I'm representing Keep Woodland Park Beautiful, along with several other committee members. If they'll please stand. First, we'd like to invite everyone to the annual spring cleanup, which is Saturday, May the 19th. Cleanup begins at 9. Burgers and dogs are served at noon. But most importantly, I would like to publicly thank and acknowledge Ken Matthews. Ken Matthews has been the Keep Woodland Park Beautiful City Council liaison for quite some time, all 5 years that I've been on the committee. And we'd just like to thank you for putting up with a bunch of yahoos and always being a gentleman. And I'd like to present to you a grabber and a vest so that you never forget us. We really wanted to give you a gold-plated grabber and vest, but with gold at $1,300 an ounce, it would have broken our budget. Ken, thank you so very much.
get a lot cleaner now, I can tell you that.
Well, let me just follow up on Kenny, what you said. First of all, on behalf of the entire community, certainly starting with the council and staff and everybody in this room and our whole community, it's a special moment when we recall 18 years of somebody committing to our community the way that you have. And you know, you're kind of that quiet leader. You say things when they need to be said, but the most important thing, and you alluded to it, and I know we all in this room can learn from it, respect. And when I think of you, I think of respect. You and I have not always agreed, but we've always had respect. And your example of civil discourse in our meetings and in everything you do is not only commendable, it's more than that. It's amazing. You're a great example for all of us. And, you know, I've learned a lot from you. I know we all have. And, again, I go back to not just the 18 years of planning and council, but everything that you've done for our community. It's amazing. You are what Woodland Park's all about. So thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, let's go
Thank you.
Okay, so two things. First, where is Julie? There she is. Julie, could you come forward and let's do this right, because there'd be no Kenny without Julie. We all know that. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you. You bet. And then we have this wonderful momentum signed by staff and looks like staff and council. Everybody but me. But here you go, Kenny. Congratulations on behalf of the entire community. Okay, we will move on, and John Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to address you and our colleagues, and also the city staff, and also the citizens of Woodland Park. First off, I want to thank Shirley Douthit and her election judges, simply because Noel would not drop out. We caused her team to spend a lot of overtime. Thank you for all those recounts. Yeah, I should have had you draw my card too. Yeah, all right. Where has the time gone? I've been sitting in this seat for 6 years, not 18. So my experience pales against Ken's, but I have the end seat. I just knew one evening that I would fall off the dais. But I haven't, and I'm not going to do it tonight, I hope. I complained, but no one wanted to change seats with me. I pleaded an age handicap, but my colleagues just laughed. No mercy for me. And so approximately 120 meetings later, I still sit here on the end seat. Is that progress? 6 years later, I realize this has been an interesting journey. Not always fun, but we have had some fun evenings. For the most part, I think we have all taken seriously our stewardship responsibilities, But I would encourage some new members to invest the necessary time to understand the details. And by that I mean the scope and the funds of the city's budgets. And you know I'm looking at you. You need to understand the details. And I'm going to be watching that you keep working on growing the emergency fund to 20% next year. 4 years ago, I and my two colleagues ran unopposed. And Ken commented on getting involved, but I was disappointed that there was apparently no interest in the community for people to aspire to be a politician. But this past election, we've had 6 good candidates for 3 positions, and I consider this real competition. Situation is ideal, and we've got 2 ladies now, Lori LaBarre and Lori Case. They had the most votes on our candidates. There's a message there. The result means that we're going to have 3 guys and 3 ladies on the council, and that's certainly a change. The new feminine perspective may mean changes are coming. We'll see. Thank you, city staff. You provided help and information whenever I needed it. It was always good stuff. I also know you're going to miss me, because at many meetings, I was the only council member with a sense of humor. I say to you, loosen up. Life is too short. And I recommend that you seriously consider paying yourselves a stipend. I would suggest something like $100 a month.
I steal the pins.
I didn't know that was an option.
I didn't steal anything. I hope you find an excellent city manager soon, male or female. I wish all 7 of you well. May God continue to bless you in Woodland Park. I'm going to get up and say, Thank you.
I'm going to take these to Mary so she doesn't have to get up and come up. I know she's very able and willing. I don't know. Come over here, Mary. I don't know if anyone's happier today than Mary Schaefer. And so there you go. There you go, right there. Take care of this young man. We really enjoyed our time together, and we wouldn't have done it without you. So thank you very, very much for your support. Thank you. Council, before we give this to Mr. Schaefer, does anyone have any comments? Val, would you like to start?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to talk to Ken, who sits to my right all the time. Nice, even-tempered, mild-mannered guy, for all his great service to this community. Once again, a tremendous community servant, and you will be missed. One of the good guys. Appreciate it. Mr. Schaefer, I appreciate all the time we've spent together, and wish you well on your summer fly fishing tours. Maybe I can tag along sometime. But yes. Once again, you put in yeoman service also. 6 years up here is not easy, and we've all had some interesting discussions amongst ourselves, and it's honorable, two very honorable men that were saying goodbye tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Val. Anybody else like to? Go ahead.
It's trite to even think of how to characterize the service of both Ken Matthews and John Schaefer. But I will say, Ken, when I was appointed to the Planning Commission and was trying to figure out how to maneuver through what the Planning Commission did, people told me, go back and look at some of the things that Ken Matthews said when he was on the Planning Commission. And frankly, that is what I did. And you served as a mentor in that respect, and you've served as a guide for me while I've been on the council. I will miss you terribly. John, 6 years we've served together now, and I will miss you terribly too. Tremendous respect for your approach to some pretty thorny issues over the last 2 years, but for the entire 6 years, you've always been steadfast in your beliefs, never wishy-washy, and I appreciate that. I will miss you, but I'm hoping that you're going to call up Gary. He's already trying to coach David Buttery on fly fishing, and he could use you as a coach, I'm sure. But thank you so much for your service, both of you.
Thank you.
I'd like to tell you all to enjoy your time away from here and forget about it, huh?
Take it easy. We found our next comedian.
So I've been on council for 4 years here, and I add up 18 years. If everybody got the math, he's been volunteering for 18 years. That doesn't include the committees. So if we add up the volunteer hours, he probably puts the rest of us combined to shame. Yes, you will be missed. But Julie wants you back. Okay. John, you and I have been sitting next to each other for 4 years. We've always had our little conversations, and I'm going to miss you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Yeah. And Mary's going to have you back now.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Thank you very much.
Well, John, I guess I'll finish this by saying this. About 6 years ago, we both sat in a chair somewhere over there, and we're trying to get appointed by council to be a member of the council, and you won that vote, and so 6 years ago I never knew who John Schaefer was, and I got to listen a little bit during council meetings prior to the time I sat in this chair. When I think of John Schaefer, I think everybody would agree with this. The word thoughtful. You're probably the most thoughtful person that I've ever run into. I want to be more like you in that regard. I have all the respect in the world for you. We've had our ups and downs. You didn't support, you did support, you didn't support, and that's just the way it goes. But like Kenny, you're just that man's man. You do things the right way. Civil discourse was never an issue with you. And although we had many disagreements, I think we could always say them just like this. So I can't tell you how much respect that I have, the council, the community, how much we're going to miss you. And I say this to everybody, even those that didn't win an election or won an election, or those that are just sitting in this room. Here's the stark reality. You can have as much impact on our community by sitting there, sitting here, sitting outside, as you can being one of us. So you've got great insight. You know the city budget. You know how we do things as well as anybody. And I would just hope that these next few years, I know you're going to be fly fishing and spending time with your family, which is the thing you should be doing. But don't lose sight of us, because we will always appreciate your input, your thoughtfulness, and whether we agree with you or not, We appreciate everything that you've done the last 6 years. So thank you very much. That said, I have a similar painting for you, sir, that was signed by staff and council members, and we all want to thank you for your service to our community. Thank you very much, sir.
And Councilmember Schaefer, your plaque will be coming. As of yesterday, I didn't know who to make the plaque out for. So yours is coming.
Thank you for the kind words, man. I mean them. You know that. I don't say it unless I mean it. Okay, Suzanne. Correct me if I'm wrong. Should we move on to oath of office?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Levy. It would be my great honor and privilege to swear you in this evening as mayor of the City of Woodland Park.
Where would you like it?
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Neil Levy,
I, Neil Levy,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of the State of Colorado,
and of the State of Colorado,
the Charter and ordinances
the Charter and ordinances
of the City of Woodland Park,
of the City of Woodland Park,
and that I will faithfully perform
and I will faithfully perform
the duties of mayor
the duties of mayor
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Now? Okay. So the tradition is now we ask the past council members to step down, and we'll invite our newest council members to come to the podium here with Suzanne.
I have Miss LaBar and Miss Case. No?
And how about one more round of applause for John and Kenny?
Again, it's my great honor and privilege to administer the oath of office to the three of you. I, and please state your name.
I, please state my name. I'm sorry, Kelly Cates.
I, Hillary LaBar, do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of the State of Colorado,
and of the State of Colorado,
the Charter and ordinances
Charter and ordinances
of the City of Woodland Park,
of the City of Woodland Park,
and that I will faithfully perform
and that I will faithfully perform
the duties of council member
the duties of council member
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations, Councilor Police. Thank you, LaBar and Councilman Sawyer. Let's have you sign your oaths of office.
Thank you, Carol.
Get a Grim Reaper.
And then Chip has provided name tags for the new councilman to go take their seats up there, so thank you. And welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Hillary.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. I'm just going to start by saying this. I am thrilled with our new council. I think the gender equity that has been referred to, we're a little closer to where we should be. I think we're a little younger than we were before, which is always a good thing. And I just look forward to working with everybody on this council and making Woodland Park a better place to live. And so thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. Clearly you had more votes than anybody else, so lots of support in the community, and we look forward to you representing our community. So thank you all for being here, and looking forward to hard work ahead. Okay, you bet. Thank you.
Mayor?
Sir?
Can we establish that there will be equal pay?
You're on a roll tonight.
There's no right now we get equal pay. We know that for sure. Okay, the next thing on my list is the selection of Mayor Pro Tem, and I'll turn it over to Carol Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I would like to make a comment about everyone's concern that we now have a more feminine side to the council. What I recognize is that we have elected two very capable and intelligent individuals, and I look forward to working with both of you. Thank you. Thank you. And now, if I may, I would like to make a motion to select Councilman Noel Sawyer as our next Mayor Pro Tem. I've enjoyed this position. I think I served both the council and the community at a time when we needed the continuity, and that was some time ago. I'm ready to set at another position on this dais as a protagonist, if you will. But Noel, I would like to say this, and I know that there have been times that I may have come across as a lecturing mother or grandmother or some other word that I'm sure you had in the back of your mind. But what I've seen happen over the last 2 years is a maturity that I respect, and I've also seen you as the eharmony.com for the council on many times. You have found a way for many of us to compromise and to come to some agreement that we could all live with. I think many in the community recognize that too, and I would feel quite comfortable having you as the Mayor Pro Tem. Understand again that there's no extra pay for it. You will get to run in the mayor's run, I'm sure, because the mayor is usually at a baseball game when the mayor's run occurs. Just joking, but no, I think you would be a very capable Mayor Pro Tem, and so I would like to make the motion to nominate Mr. Sawyer.
Great. Do I hear a second? I will second the motion.
Okay, thank you.
I will second the motion. I'll start with the discussion. I think in the past the mayor has had some input in who becomes the Mayor Pro Tem. And like Carol, I appreciate Noel's growth over the last number of years, getting to work with him for the last almost 4 years. And I think he represents our community well. And so I would like to see him sitting next to me and kind of being the second in charge, if you will. Any other discussion? If not, Suzanne.
Thank you. Councilmember Carr?
I'm going to abstain.
We can abstain.
Can abstain?
No, that's what I'm doing.
Is an abstention considered a positive vote? I think the charter says it is. Take me a minute to find that.
The charter in section 7.3 says that a vote by yes or no shall be taken upon the passage of all ordinances, resolutions, and motions and entered upon the minutes of the council proceedings. Every ordinance shall require the affirmative vote of the majority of the membership of the entire council for final passage, except certain exceptions which require a supermajority. Resolutions and motions shall require the affirmative vote of a majority of the members present for passage. Every member, when present, must vote upon ordinances, resolutions, and motions, except a member shall be excused from voting on any question in which he has a conflict of interest or on any question concerning his own conduct. Each member of the council who is present shall vote when his name is called, unless excused by the unanimous consent of the remaining members present. Any member refusing to vote, except when not so required by this charter, shall be considered delinquent in his duties, and an affirmative vote shall be cast and recorded in his name.
Okay. Now you heard the comments of the city attorney. If you abstain, it's a positive vote, and you have the option to change your vote right now if you'd like.
I'm going to vote no.
Okay.
Councilmember Case?
No.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Harvey?
Yes.
Councilmember LeVar?
No.
Mayor Levy?
Yes.
Councilmember Saunier?
No.
Councilmember Sawyer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion fails.
4-3?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Does that mean I'm stuck? What's the deal with you?
Well, we're going to find out right now. We're going to find out. Okay. Well, the motion has not passed, and so, council members, it's up to us to select a mayor pro tem. It's not necessary that we do it tonight, but we would like to do it tonight if at all possible. So if you want to have discussion, if anybody would like to nominate somebody else, the floor is yours.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Valcar as mayor pro tem.
Okay.
I'll second if he'll take it.
We got a motion and a second, Suzanne. Discussion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a comment if I could, please.
Please.
I think it would be a good measure for the council to consider maybe the election with some guidance from the citizens as to whom they might have said they would like to see serve in a secondary position to Your Honor. Just a thought that occurred to me. Just thought I would share that with my fellow council folks.
You want to expand on that a little bit for me?
Well, I think that, I don't know, just to have a basis with which to maybe select a mayor pro tem, if we listen to what the people said in the election, in the voting, and the number of votes that were received by the various members on this board, maybe that could give us some guidance. And I think that the city clerk could maybe refresh our memory if that provides some kind of input for us to consider. Maybe tenure is another way to think of it. And I know Mr. Sawyer's had longer tenure on this board than the rest of us that are here. I don't know, I'm just trying to come up with something that gives us. Mr. Carr was secondary in the election for mayor. And it was very close. I think there was a separation of less than 200 votes between Your Honor and Mr. Carr in the election. I'm asking maybe that gives us some direction from the citizenry. Does that elaborate?
Yeah, a little bit. That's good. That's good. Anybody else? Conversation?
If I may, Kelly, I appreciate it was a thoughtful approach to the question at hand.
Thank you.
However, there are a couple of reasons, because I have served here for the last 2 years with Councilman Carr, that regardless of the vote, I felt that he has been a very polarizing and divisive member of the council for the last 2 years. I would like to bring to your attention a letter that Mr. Carr wrote to another council member about myself.
I'm going to call point of order on this because I did nominate, it was seconded, and there was no vote held yet.
No, you're
so
right.
I'm still in discussion. You'll learn the rules eventually.
You're in discussion right now.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I would ask that the council members keep respect for one another, please, even the experienced ones.
I appreciate that, and I agree with you.
I'd like to read a letter that Councilman Carr wrote about myself, and frankly, it wasn't that it affected me personally or that I went home and cried and kicked the dog or drank heavily, but this is just the tone of the treatment Mr. Carr has demonstrated to some of the council members over the last 2 years. After an incident that some may remember, Mr. Carr left the meeting and addressed the mayor in an email and said, Carol Harvey is a liar and a bully and a flaming big government hack. Liar and bully, that's okay. My kids probably called me worse when they were teenagers. Now they're the parents of teenagers and payback is hell. However, a big government hack I do not understand. He also made the comment that he did not like sitting beside me, and he'd find a way to move himself from my presence. I'm not sure if he was afraid of girl cooties or what the issue was at that point in time. But I do want to talk about big government hack, and I want to talk about some of the other phrases that were thrown around during the election. The inference that any member of this council was a communist, a pinko, or a liberal, I found offensive. And I'll tell you why. I'm a retired Army officer, an intelligence officer. I've maintained and possess a security clearance right now. And I'm pretty certain that the security investigations that I've undergone for 39 years would have discovered if I were a communist or a pinko. I'm certain I'm not liberal. I'm probably a little bit right of Attila the Hun. I've been a registered Republican since I turned 18, which was decades before you and Noel were born. I served as the president of my college Republican club, and I have always voted a straight Republican ticket, except for one unfortunate incident in college when I voted for Jimmy Carter. But that was in the 70s, and things happened in the 70s that I'm not proud of. But the point I tried to make is this. This is a nonpartisan council. That gives us the liberty to vote our conscience. We are not Republicans, Democrats, liberals, socialists, or big government hacks. We all are here to do the best for our community because we live in this community. And I will not tolerate that kind of an accusation. Thou, I will not tolerate this kind of foolishness. This is just one of the many digital communications that you have conveyed to condemn members of this council, and I find it offensive. I am also concerned that your health will not allow you to serve in the capacity of Mayor Pro Tem or possibly even as a council member. I know the Americans with Disabilities Act may frown upon a statement like that. When you sit and think from this dais, I respect your opinion. When you leave this dais and receive counsel from someone outside of the community, that's when you and I begin to disagree.
Totally.
Mr. Mayor, can we please get back to the business at hand? Please.
You can call the question, Kelly, if you'd like.
I call the question, Mayor.
Question's been called. Suzanne?
Thank you. Councilmember Case?
Yes.
Harvey?
No.
Councilmember LaBarre?
Yes.
Mayor Levy?
Yes.
Councilmember Saunier?
Yes.
Councilmember Sawyer?
No.
Councilmember Carr?
Yes.
Motion carries. Councilmember Carr has been appointed Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you.
I don't think you'll be able to move the distance from me because by alphabetical order, we'll still continue to sit by each other.
Kip, you want to change those for us? Do we want to do that now? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just that Councilmember Carr will come over and sit next to you, and then it'll be alphabetical. If you want to do that, you can do it.
I'll simply change places.
We can wait till next meeting.
Next meeting is
Yeah, let's
fine.
do it.
Let's just continue with the business. It's late.
Thank you, Kelly.
Okay, we move on to agenda item number 4. And we have no additions, deletions, or corrections. Move on to the consent calendar. Suzanne.
Thank you, Mayor Levy. I recognize that the 2 newest councilwomen were not present for the minutes of the last council meeting, so I would recognize that you may not vote on that particular thing, the consent calendar, or...
No, actually, in accordance with the charter, they are required to vote, and they can take the representation from their fellow council members that the minutes are don't have any material problems and that they can vote.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, let me make sure that statement was on when the mic was on. The charter requires that the new council members vote on the minutes, regardless of whether they were here, and the reason that they can do that is that they can take the representation of their fellow council members that there are no material flaws with the minutes as prepared and as presented.
Thank you. Thanks for the clarification. This evening on the consent calendar, we have the approval of the minutes of the April 5th, 2018 regular council meeting, and we also have the approval of the March 2018 statement of expenditures.
Council questions?
I would move to approve the consent calendar as read.
Second.
Great, we have a motion and a second. Suzanne?
Thank you. Harvey?
Yes.
Labar?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Saunier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Suzanne. Okay, we move on to unfinished business, and Aaron Smith.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. There is one item that I'd like to report to you under this discussion of hiring new city manager, and that is that we are, the city clerk and acting city manager and I are in the process of working with CPS HR Consulting to set a kickoff date, which the consultant can come to the city and meet with the entire council, and council will be apprised of those dates and the time when that's firmed up.
Are we close on that yet, Suzanne?
I cannot get a unanimous decision. I have 6 of the 7 council able to come on April 30th. That's the one night I can get most to come. Otherwise, I can't get all 7 to commit. They have other obligations.
One of you can't make it the 30th. Is it me? No?
No, it's not you, sir.
I think it's just one council can't meet all 3 dates. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah. And that ain't me, is it?
No, sir.
Well, let me ask you this. The person that can't make the 30th, do you know who you are, and can you change or not?
Well, I think it's me, but I don't think Noel was answering.
I did right before I came to council,
Did you?
and,
Okay.
and I was good for all 3 dates.
Okay. So we do have another date where we have 6 out of 7.
Yeah. I thought it was Monday, that Monday, 30th was everybody. Last time I looked at...
Except for Val. You
Right.
can't make
Val
it on
had
the
a
30th?
Tuesday, I thought, that he couldn't
I
do.
put an explanation in the doodle thing.
Okay, the next option, I'd like to get it done today if we could. Do we have another one with 6 out of 7?
No, it was just the April 30th had the 6 out of 7. The other day was the May 1st date, and I believe the third date. Can someone help me?
The 8th.
May 8th. So we had May 8th, May 1st, and April 30th. Sir?
The only one I can't make is May 8th because of surgery. My wife. That's it.
How about May 1st? Can everybody make May 1st? Who can't?
Is it May 1st or April 30th? Is the doodle?
I don't have it in front of me. I'm not prepared to answer, but I believe it was, I couldn't get full consensus. April 30th was where I had 6 of the 7.
Is it possible, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I'm interrupting.
No.
Is it possible to try to see if the consultants have a 4th date?
We can always check. Yes, these were the dates they gave us yesterday, but we can look for another date. We were trying to get a date earlier than further away, but I certainly can check with them tomorrow.
Thank you.
Suzanne, according to what I'm looking at on the doodle poll, there's 7 votes yes on April 30th.
Well, that one is me.
I'm sorry. Okay.
There's the council and then my vote.
Now, the 24th, there's 6 votes. I'm the one that can't make it because I've got a baseball game. If we can make the time a little bit later, if that works, can you check and see?
Oh, I know it will work.
And because we said 5:30, if we can make that 6:30 with the HR people, I can make sure I'm here for that.
Does that work for the rest of the council?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is April 24th at 6:30 p.m.
6:30.
I'll notify the consultants tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Council, if that happens to be 6:45, is that still okay with everybody? Okay. Let's plan on it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do you have anything else?
I have nothing else, Your Honor.
Okay, we move on to ordinances on initial posting, and welcome Sally Riley.
Thank you, Mayor Levy, and congratulations on all the new appointments this evening. I am pleased to inform you that we have 3 ordinances on initial posting this evening that deal with designation of historic landmarks. The first ordinance is Ordinance 1325. This is to designate the local historic landmark for the old post office. This is where Dana's Dance is currently residing, and they are the owners of this building that is located at 210 West Midland. And we would like for you to approve this and set the public hearing for May 30th, at which time I will have a very interesting PowerPoint to share with you.
May 3rd?
May 3rd.
Council questions? I've got one. I know we're on initial posting, and these 3 will come all under the same question. Once we get that designation, what's the difference? What's the benefit of the designation? Can you talk to that now, or you want to wait?
I would prefer to wait because we'll have a full report at that time. These are quasi-judicial, and the applicants, the owners, are not here this evening.
Great. Council, we're on initial posting on ordinance number 1325. Any questions? Kelly?
Sally, I just want to clarify that all of these have been requested by the property owners.
Yes, they have.
The city being one of them.
Yes.
And those applicants will be here for the public hearing?
They certainly will.
Thank you.
Val?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The thing that I'm interested, I don't know, probably others are interested in, is the ramifications both financially to the city and to the owners. I assume that kind of thing will be in the presentation.
Yes, it will.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Can we move to approve all on initial posting?
I think it would be best for us to do them individually. Thank you.
I move then to approve ordinance number 1325 on initial posting.
Second.
Motion and second, Suzanne?
Labar?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Saunier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, Sally?
The next ordinance is 1326, and this is to designate a local historic landmark for the Cowhand, which is located at 200 West Midland Avenue, as requested by the owner, Mary Jo Larson, and set the public hearing for May 3rd.
Council, any questions? We'll call for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. Suzanne?
Thank you. Levy?
Yes.
Soinier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Labar?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. And lastly is ordinance 1327 on initial posting to designate a local historic landmark for the Midland Railroad Depot, also known as the Baggage Building, which is located at 211 West Midland Avenue, as requested by the City of Woodland Park, and set the public hearing for May 3rd.
Questions, Council?
No.
No? We need a motion to approve, please.
I'll move to approve ordinance 1327, setting the public hearing for May 3rd.
Second.
Suzanne?
Soinier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Labar?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Suzanne. Okay, we'll move on to public hearings, and Sally's right there, ready to go, approving ordinance number 1321.
Thank you so much. Ordinance number 1321 is to amend Chapter 15.02. There was a typo in the agenda. That is the chapter with which we adopt the building codes. And this building code that is presented to be adopted this evening is the Pikes Peak Regional 2017 code. And at this point, I would like to ask Mac McVicker and our representatives from Pikes Peak Regional Buildings Department to join us at the podium. I am very pleased that this public hearing has culminated several months' worth of work by the Board of Review and especially by Pikes Peak Regional Building Department. And I'll turn it over to Mac McVicker.
Good evening. My name is Mac McVicker. I live at 13719 Hetty Road, Sedalia, Colorado. I don't live in Sedalia. It's just up the road. It's just the way the post office draws their boundaries. Mr. Mayor, City Council, as Sally said, this culminates many months of work. We started on this last August. The stack of new codes that we had to review is literally over a foot high. Not every line was changed, but a lot of changes were made across all of these codes. We've worked extensively with John Welton, Jay Inhouse, Gina, not up here yet, in getting something that we feel is a good solution for Woodland Park. Is it perfect? No. But we negotiated in good faith with Regional. They did the same with us. And we have one that is reasonable. It's one that I can defend. And I'd like to say right now, we extracted a couple of exceptions to the code that none of the other 7 jurisdictions got. One of these is windows. At this altitude, we don't have as many options from the window manufacturers as you do at lower elevations. We're in the, if any of you have ever wanted to say I'm in the 1%, you can say that, because Woodland Park is in about the 1% of the United States population that lives above 8,000 feet above sea level. When you get that high up, the pressures are less. The window manufacturers don't make windows just for Woodland Park, or really the 1%ers. So we got a relief on that. We got a relief on the what's called the drain water heat recovery requirement. I won't go into the details, but we don't have to meet that. And before I forget, Councilman Saunier, I heard you talk about remuneration for your time. As chairman of the Board of Review, I can say I doubled the salaries of our members. 2 times 0 is still 0, right? And I'll be here. I want to let John Welton speak, but I'll still remain up here. If you have any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council and new council members. This is our first time meeting. Congratulations, and look forward to working with each of you in the future. This is the same code that was presented previously when we were here. It is the same suite of codes, which is the 2015 International Family of Codes from ICC. It includes the International Residential Code, International Building Code, which is more the commercial code book, the International Fuel Gas Code, the International Mechanical Code, the International Existing Building Code, and the International Energy Code. It also includes most current adopted versions of the Elevator and Escalator Code, the ASME standards, which are adopted by the state of Colorado, and we locally have to adopt those within 12 months. That is a state guideline. The other codes that are not part of this adoption are the National Electric Code and the National or International Plumbing Code. Those are also adopted at the state level, and we have 12 months to adopt. The 2015 International Plumbing Code is currently the adopted version by the state, and that works out very well because it cross-references the 2015 I-codes perfectly. So we don't have to worry about internal amendments to make the plumbing code work. The other code, the National Electric Code, is currently the 2014 version. The state is looking to adopt a newer version of the NEC, but we have not seen finalized paperwork from DORA on that at this moment. So from our previous meeting, I wanted to see if there were any follow-up questions that anyone might have had, or if there was a little bit more explanation needed into why we were able to get to 2 additional specific amendments that we were able to in Woodland Park.
Thank you, John. Go ahead, Paul.
The new construction is a culmination of East meeting West and Central and putting it all together. I understand that. Most people may not understand it in the room. The 2x6 construction, can you explain the benefits and the savings or the cost of 2x6 construction where you're outer walls on this type of code?
Okay. So it is not necessarily the International Residential Code that is going to drive the requirement for a change to 2x6 construction. The prescriptive requirement for that is going to come out of the Energy Code.
Correct.
As far as cost associated, we don't necessarily deal in hardline cost of what individual items actually contribute to the total valuation of a home. That's really in the hands of industry members, architects, but the International Energy Code, in this particular case, the 2015, expands on options. So that was one of the advantages that we saw in making the push to the 2015 Energy Code. The 2009 Energy Code, we have approximately 3 to 4 options we can use to get a house to compliance. The 2015 Energy Code provides 6 options, potential options to get to the end result. Following the prescriptive path, it would require 2x6 walls, and that would meet the minimum R value for the prescriptive path. If we were to look at alternative paths in the Energy Code, such as performance path, UA alternative, and potentially the energy rating index using data from outside jurisdictions, you could make a 2x4 wall work. It's a give and take though.
But you would have to add to the outside of your 2x4.
Yes, you could still use 2x4 construction to maintain cavity insulation at current levels, but you would have to have an R5 continuous outside insulation.
That's
which would be either foam, a rigid foam, or an impregnated OSB.
And this is important in my asking you this question so that people understand there are alternatives here in an EIFS or stucco type situation.
Correct. In a simulated performance path or the true performance path, you get to add every single component in that house to equal R value on exterior walls.
I'd like to ask, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I would like to ask you about testing to meet these performances. Can you explain some of the testing, pressure testing, infrared testing that goes along with the new codes?
So new code requirements from the Energy Code are going to be twofold that are going to be different from the 2009 SKU. Currently, right now, the 2009 still requires an air leakage test on ductwork. So that does not change. That is a test that will not change.
And that's in the Energy Code?
It is in the Energy Code. One thing that will change is a blower door test. So those will be required now to check air tightness on a house. Blower door test, I'll try to make it very, very quick and easy for everybody that doesn't know what it is. It is, you seal up everything in the house, close all the windows, cover up any outside air vents, that are not dampered, and depressurize the house. So open the front door, block it in, put a fan in it, depressurize the house to a minimum of 50 Pascal difference. It's a half an hour test. So in half an hour, they see how many times the air changes in the house. The code requires 3. We've amended that to 5. So our basis on amending that to 5 is current construction techniques where homes are already being blower door tested are meeting a 5 air change per hour rate in most cases.
Will you require an infrared test? It makes sense to have an infrared test along with the blower test.
Well, if your energy rater does it along with the blower door test, they're welcome to submit that information to us. A true infrared test is not required by the 2015 Energy Code.
Okay.
Yes.
You've described some changes that on the surface and if in a perfect world seem to be exceptional. Could be a great direction for our industry to head. My question to you is, we talk a lot about the need and the costs of real estate now. We talk about the costs to do affordable housing. That's been a huge goal and something that's been talked about for years on this council, in this room, and with many other people. The different type of insulation for the 2x4, 2x6 construction being, and for the 2x4 would be foam. You've talked about these additional tests and depressurizing the house, and that's not something that's easy to do. We have outlets and where air can leak. It adds, tell me that it adds an extreme amount of cost to the building.
I think you would have to just define what extreme amount of cost.
Well, at this point, real estate's going up just because of demand. We're having a hard time housing our school teachers, our police officers, and we're adding costs based on regulation by government to increase the cost of a home. When in fact we're trying to find ways to possibly provide some more affordable opportunities for housing. So are we heading in the right direction? Are we conflicting in our goals in things that this city would like to have or needs?
I think one way to look at how the Energy Code, and I know we're doing a lot of conversation on the Energy Code.
Yes.
There are other avenues of the code that requirements change, and those affect cost as well.
Sure.
The reality of every code change is they're not going to go backwards. It's a code catching up to construction techniques. And after looking at the evaluations, this energy code basically gets to the point where you pay upfront to save in the future. The energy code that is proposed long-term makes the home more affordable from the utility cost and cost to heat, cool, potentially a healthier environment.
What's the payback period?
That's going to depend on your utility purveyor's rates and what current rebates you might be on. So from our standpoint, we've heard numbers anywhere from, and this is all across the board because we get it from all directions. We have the Green Cities Coalition that gives us numbers based on the Department of Energy. We have industry members and industry leaders that give us other numbers. Potentially, return on investment depends on size of house and what performance path you take to reach compliance with the energy code and what your entire upfront package is. So whether you're going to do sealed combustion appliances versus open combustion appliances, high efficiency versus low efficiency. So we've heard anywhere from 8 years upwards of 80 years. So the 80-year point, that's where we've stepped in and created some amendments because we can't get to a worthwhile situation if it takes 80 years to return an investment up front. So those are going to be the amendments that you see in our current draft, like leaving the basement R-value wall insulation the same. Getting to affordable housing, the window U-factor amendment, allowing not to have to use triple pane windows or argon filled up here. The drain water heat recovery unit. We've heard, not that we've actually priced it, but we've heard, those are approximately $600 per home. Based on elevation and climate zone, you probably would not get the return on investment in a colder, unfinished area with a drain water heat recovery unit. So, good option to go ahead and get to that amendment for this jurisdiction.
I just have one clarification. The state has adopted these as guidelines, not mandates, correct?
Well, the state only adopts the National Electric Code and the International Plumbing Code and mandates them across the state, carte blanche.
Welfare and safety.
Yes. From the state standpoint, there are two different criteria where the state will step in and put a code in place. That is for minimum standards for jurisdictions that adopt codes. There's also a minimum standard for jurisdictions that do not adopt a code. Two different standards, but generally one ends up catching up with the other one. The first standard is jurisdictions that do not adopt codes. Their minimum guideline, if we're going to touch on the energy code, is for commercial properties, the 2012 International Energy Code. So if there is no code adopted by a jurisdiction, the state can step in and say, these projects have to meet the 2012 unamended energy code. In areas that do adopt codes, that minimum reverts back to the 2003. So what we've seen in the past, as is the majority of jurisdictions that do start adopting newer codes, the state will mandate those minimum codes raised to the next code cycle below where the majority of the jurisdictions are at.
But what we're just considering this evening, these are guidelines, correct?
What you have is our proposed draft, not state proposals.
Right.
We don't have a choice on the elevator codes.
Okay.
Those are written in stone, no choice. What we have before you is our draft of the codes that we are proposing and have amended because of the gap between where we are currently and where we need to get to have a uniform, concise and consistent code across all of our jurisdictions.
Appreciate your patience and your explanation.
No problem.
Just trying to get up to speed.
That's why
Thank
I'm
you.
here.
Council, anybody else?
Yeah, let me ask you one more thing. All right, Smiley. Do we change our blueprints in meeting these codes? Do we have to go on and add mechanical blueprints into our building plan and electrical, and what's the process there?
Okay, so from the plan review standpoint,
right,
if you were to choose the performance path and change your exterior finish and you're building a 2x4 wall, plans wouldn't have to change. This code change does not impact structural plans like the previous code change did, where every staircase all of a sudden didn't work and every plan had to be redrawn to show a new staircase. Moving forward, mechanical. Duct designs will have to be redone to show new standards from the International Mechanical Code. Nothing will have to change on the plumbing or electric sheets. And then the requirement for the energy code is going to be an updated energy res check for single-family homes if you're going to follow the performance path, or an upgraded prescriptive energy code compliance sheet if you're going to follow the prescriptive path.
Okay.
Minimal changes to plans from the structural standpoint.
Okay. And there are benefits with going with these new codes and upgrading. There's no doubt the payback is much quicker than 80 years. That's just your 8-year and aligning of your home. If that's me, I'll stop talking. But the 2x6, 24-inch on center, single plate on top, protecting and insulating over the exterior wall so you don't get the coldness in the wall, and all these factors. People need to understand this. There is a payback, and the payback is quick. The alignment of your home, collecting passive solar energy, all plays into this.
And to touch on one thing that you just pointed out, if you insulate all the way over the exterior wall, you get a reduction in your attic insulation. So there is an exception there.
I understand. And your attic has to maintain the outside temperature so you don't dew points and all of that. Okay. So I'm just trying to hasten the conversation so people can understand, but I would like to hear from the contractors in here and people developing and all of that. I understand where you're going. I built lead, both silver and brass. So I understand it. Go ahead.
Councilman Sonia, to go back to something you just said, I was going to address it earlier. You asked if there is a additional cost to build these exterior walls out of 2x6s, and I think Councilwoman Case was on the same vein. So if you go 2x6, you're allowed to do 24-inch on center. You line up your rafters or your trusses on top of those. You get by with a single top plate. If you're doing 2x4 construction on 16-inch centers, you got a double top plate. You're looking at, in terms of board feet of lumber, although 2x6s are slightly more expensive than 2x4s, for the material alone, there's almost no difference. You will pay a little more for the insulation because you're going 50% thicker, a little over 50% thicker, from 3.5 to 5.5. So the cost of that exterior wall is not much more under the 2015 IECC than it was under the 2009.
And I appreciate that explanation. That's exactly what I'm trying to get to, cost and efficiency. Okay.
Carol?
The question I had on the other 6 jurisdictions, have they already adopted your recommended code revisions? And if they have, did you have similar amendments, or did they have any amendments at all?
This is John Welton again with Regional Building, just for the recording. So currently, we have made it through first approval, or first reading, through all 7 jurisdictions outside of Woodland Park that we cover for. 4 jurisdictions are fully adopted. We're we're scheduled on agendas, waiting for second reading. They have the same amendments that we presented to your Board of Review during the first couple of meetings we had with Board of Review. After a couple of follow-up meetings with Board of Review in Woodland Park, we have added the 2 additional amendments for Woodland Park and Woodland Park only. So they have exactly what you have minus the window U factor amendment and the drain water heat recovery amendment.
Go ahead, Hillary.
I just have a very basic question. So in 2009, there's 3 to 4 options, which are really rules that you have to abide by in order to build. And the 2015, now we're going to double that to 6.
No, it's not rules. It's options to get to compliance. So you have 6 total different paths. So each contractor, each architect can pick one of 6 different paths to get to compliance, as opposed to only having one of 3 to 4 different paths. So it doesn't double restrictions, it gives more options.
Okay, thank you.
Council, anything else before we go to the audience? Okay. Let's start with, I've got Daniel and Martine Vogel. Is that correct? Sorry if I mispronounced that. You'll set me straight when you come to the podium, and if you'll give us your name and your address, we'd appreciate it.
Okay. I'm Dan Vogel, and this is Martine Vogel, 660 Chipmunk Drive, Woodland Park, Colorado.
Just do your best to speak into the microphone so everybody can hear at home.
Okay, I think it's off.
Is it?
It's on.
Okay. Right into it? Is that
there you go.
We can raise it. There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm Martine Vogel and live at 660 Chipmunk Drive, Woodland Park.
That is this. I can just talk loud.
No, let's do this. You can talk loud, but the problem is they can't hear at home on the recording, so Kip's giving you an alternative.
Okay,
Thank
can you
you,
hear me now?
Kip.
Better?
Yes.
Hold it like this? Okay. We're general contractors here in Woodland Park. We build energy efficient homes. We own High Performance Structures and Open Range Construction Ltd. And we're all for energy compliance and energy codes and increasing, because we meet a lot of, we get Energy Star in every house we build. So we're kind of on the side of, looking at, we don't see these as restrictive, but we build with insulating concrete form blocks and pour concrete into them. We go all the way to the top plate. We've seen a big difference in, we see how important it is to look at these codes and adopt these codes and see how they are affecting people in the future. I mean, you're building a house that you have 2x4 construction, and now we're looking at 2x6 construction. I didn't do anything. And the 2x6 construction is whether it's a top plate, double top plate, or single top plate, as opposed to a 2x4, you can get more insulation into that, and it's a better way to build. It's more efficient, and you do get better energy efficiency, which in turn helps you with your basically the energy bills. And there is a return on investment, but it's not, depending on the jurisdiction, as John was saying, it really depends on how well that, what are your energy costs in that jurisdiction? What is Black Hills energy cost for gas right now? And what is that going to cost in the future? And if we're building 2x4, if we're leaving our codes as they are and not improving those codes, what is that doing for future owners of those homes? And how is that going to affect their future bottom line into the month? So as builders, we feel it's an important and responsible thing to do to further that energy compliance and increase our codes. And I know everybody says, oh, it just costs so much more. We do it for, we're matching and beating in some cases the 2x6 right now. One of the factors is the cost of lumber. We're buying concrete right now for less than we have for a long time. We've gotten some breaks on concrete because we pour a lot of it, but that's our company. But the 2x4s, we're seeing commodities markets increase, and cost of materials is going up. So I can understand that, that whole side of things. But if people are building, they're going to be building, and it's good to give them an option for that. As for the different paths, that is something. This does give 2 additional paths of getting to that energy compliance, and by decreasing, those of you who don't understand, the windows are that's actually a decrease in efficiency. Okay, the UA rating going from a 0.32 to a 0.35, 0.35 to 3.2. So yeah, exactly, is actually a decrease. And what Mac was saying is that it's because of the, it's hard to get those windows. We tend to find them. I don't know, maybe we look under the right rocks, but we find good quality windows that we put in our homes, and we're getting them we're getting a 0.29. So anyway, that's I think all I have.
I don't really need to say anything now. Other than maybe I can talk a little bit about just our experience. Not only are we builders of energy efficient homes, we live in one and realize the savings every month in our utility bills, and it's not just a small savings. And I talk to my neighbor all the time, and she has lamented her $600 a month utility bill in the wintertime when we're at like $240 and our houses are about the same size, about 5,500 square feet. So that's a huge difference. And when I watch someone who has a brand new home come in and I see the insulators coming out, having to re-insulate up here in Woodland Park, what I'm concerned about is that, that we make sure that we have code in Woodland Park that meets the conditions here, because we're a little bit different than Colorado Springs. And so we need to be building appropriate to our climate. And I mean, we've built, when I say we're custom home builders, we've built homes that are 1,000 square feet, homes that are 7,000 square feet in size, and people have spent as little as $130,000 for a little cabin in Divide that met Energy Star, and she could light that place with the candle. There's a real benefit to that. Plus, I look at it too as a member of a community. What do we want to leave behind? One of the reasons that we get the business that we get, people look us up because we're offering something different. We have a lot of people that come from out of state, and I'm a general contractor, but I do a lot of the designs and things as well. And people come into the Pikes Peak region from other states, and they're looking for something more efficient. And they're not finding it in some of the homes, the existing homes that are out there, and that's why they end up calling us. And and these aren't necessarily first-time home buyers or anything like that. They're people who are, they're looking to either upgrade, or maybe they're on a fixed income and they're looking for a way to save money over time. So anyway, that's just my perspective, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for being here. You can just leave that there, give it to Kip, and we'll manage that.
May I ask one?
Please.
May I ask one?
Please.
Excuse me.
Excuse me, Mr. Vogel?
Please.
He's got one question. I'm sorry.
I'm going to try to make it very fast. How long have you been building these homes?
It's been, I think we're on year 14.
14 years?
Yes.
So you do have a good idea of the energy savings. And I'm asking this question because I'm a believer. Don't get me wrong. But there is a savings in building an energy-efficient home.
Absolutely.
You know, the question has been asked, the amount of time for payback and utilities and things like that. Do you have any idea? Have you followed any of your homes?
That's a good question because, I mean, it's difficult because we start already, I mean, where we started was always energy efficient. So it's hard for us to compare that, you know, when people choose, I mean, we design and build a home for somebody, you know, all I can tell you is that in terms of cost of a home, now, I'm not talking tract or anything like that because this is custom. It's a totally different animal, all right? But we've beaten with the way we build, we've beaten 2x4 construction, okay? But it depends on what the lumber prices are that day, you know? I mean, literally. And so you just never know. But we are consistent. I mean, it isn't that much more. And at least, I mean, if I don't want to hurt any other builder either because people, they have a system that works for them, okay? If nothing else, give your client some options on, you know, maybe they'll want to spend a little bit more on their insulation.
I appreciate your explanation.
I just wanted to add to that one thing. If you compare, when you start with a higher level of efficiency, and if you were going to put in, for example, geothermal or a system like that, which is pretty expensive, your return on investment takes longer in a starting point that's a higher efficiency home than it would in one that's lower because you have a lower starting point. So just an example that might help you.
But the question is, you have options to get to that path.
That's correct.
Thank you.
This code gives it more options.
Thanks, Mr. Vogel. Ms. Vogel, thank you very much. Okay, next I have Carl Anderson.
Hello. So I am Carl Anderson, 602 County Road 511. First off, I'd like to say I appreciate Sally Riley and her staff for giving us all the opportunities to discuss these options that are out there. So I too build energy efficient homes of all different sizes and shapes and levels of insulation. We have structurally insulated panel home packages that our basic walls are R25, more than exceed this requirement. But what we find is not everybody can afford these higher end building packages. And one of the things this code does do is limit those options, and the numbers, I believe, Paul, that you've been looking for, that I've read and heard reported, the Gazette, I believe, reported a $5,000 to $10,000 increase for the average house for Colorado Springs under this code. HBA, I believe, put out $8,000 to $12,000 is the average increased cost per home. Even in the minutes of the Board of Review meeting, they used the $8,000 to $12,000 figure. So there is a substantial increase in cost here up front. The payback that's also been reported by some of these places is 20 to 30 years on this investment. So it's not 80 years, but it's not a 5 to 6 year, which some of us would consider a better investment in our money. Couple of things as far as prescriptive and performance aspects of this code. All of them come with an increased cost to the house. It's just a different place you're spending it in. So there is increased cost no matter which way you go. Whether you're paying a design professional to come up with these methods of building savings or doing a prescriptive measure, they all come with a cost. They're not free and they're not inexpensive. What I think here is the 2015 Energy Code will limit and hurt the first-time new buyers and then the elderly people looking to retirement homes on fixed incomes that can't afford the extra items that are in it. The blower test, the prices that came out at one of the meetings we talked about was about $800 for the average house to get tested that way. So that'd be another cost on top of there. So I believe the energy efficiency is a good thing if it has a reasonable amount of payback time. This really does not. And it's going to price houses out of the reach of a lot more people. And we already, like we know, are in a tight market here and an expensive market. So do we drive that cost further with increased regulation is what we're doing. We're regulating higher cost on housing. And that's what you people will be voting on here. There is options to that. They don't have to adopt the energy code portion of this bill. They can stick with the 2009 energy code, which will allow a greater variety of homes to be built, still with decent standards. And I'll tell you, as far as my own home, I live in a 5,200 square foot real log home. My energy bills are only $240 a month. Okay, so it can be done, and it can be done wisely, but it doesn't have to be regulated to us to do it, because not everybody can afford the Cadillac. Okay, so we just need to be careful how quickly we push up the rising cost of housing, and that's what you'll be doing here.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir.
So you don't believe there's enough options inside this code to control this accelerating cost of design, energy efficiency?
There's options inside this, but they're all come at a price. Okay, it's not that they're a cheaper option than what we have now. They all come at a higher price. That's the issue with this regulation.
Anybody else?
So
Yes, ma'am.
If the resolution, or excuse me, the ordinance were amended to not adopt the 2015 energy code, your recommendation is to maintain the provisions of the 2009 energy code?
Correct. Correct.
But do adopt the other 2015 codes that are recommended.
Right. As long as you make it clear that in the IRC book, the 2015 IRC, that any place it references the energy code, that it refers back to the 2009 energy code, which, by the way, Teller County Building Department works under. They have the 2015 IRC with the 2009 energy code. They opted not to take that huge dump in housing prices that would create.
Thank you for that explanation. Teller County did go that way.
Yes, you're very welcome, sir. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. Good luck, new board members. Thank you for stepping up.
Thank you.
Okay, on item 8A, I don't have anybody else signed up. Would anybody else like to come forward? Come on up, Mark.
I'm Mark McNabb. I live at 206 Starlight Heights. General contractor. I represent MBI Contractors and Highmark Design. And I think I'll read my thoughts so I don't get distracted. Pricing in Woodland Park is already exempting most of our local people, such as teachers, police, and first responders, as well as others, from living in Woodland Park where they work. Price increases due to products, land, and outside sources have been alarming, forcing our home prices higher. To give you an example, I sold a house 2 years ago for $275,000. We're now selling for $435,000. That tells you the land increase and everything else. I know that energy savings is critical in the building industry, and historically builders have chosen to install minimal products to save money. We at MBI install a state-of-the-art insulation package that is virtually 100% airtight. And what I'm approaching here is the air test, the door test, and why it's necessary. That is virtually 100% airtight, but at the same time, it gives our customers far greater value than the normal market provides. We use an R50 ICF foundation system, a BIBS blow-in for our exterior wall system, which has a true R23 airtight, non-flammable, allergy-free, as well as an additional list of amenities to go with that. We do an R49 blow-in and ceilings that completely seal all light fixtures and other penetrations. Tyler's not here tonight, but he uses the same system for his customers. Our windows have a RU31 rating, but they're also energy core with an insulated frame. You have no air loss, zero air loss. These systems are expensive, but the additional cost goes to improve the customer's energy usage, whereas the air door test is virtually a waste of time and money for our homes and does not improve our product one bit. We're frankly not interested in spending over $1,000 hard cost and hundreds of dollars overhead to do a test that is absolutely not needed in our homes. I have a solution on how we can use that test if we need it. We create a point system that would exempt a contractor that's using a premium system, but will regulate those who don't. So we have a point system that would exempt us if our system meets certain qualifications. I talked to Jim, the inspector at Teller County. He said they spent 3 months analyzing this. It wasn't a 2-day decision, and they felt like it was really not going to be beneficial to the builders and the customers to have the increase of $5,000 to $7,000 that it will cost to meet the 15 energy code. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else on item 8A? Moving forward. Yeah, come on up, man.
Mr. Mayor, can I address the City Council as a private citizen this time, not as a member of the Board of Review?
Please do.
So for 6 years, I was on a team called the Department. Sorry.
There you go.
For 6 years, I was on a team sponsored by the Department of Energy called the Build America team. The Build America team is made up of some people that are on staff at Department of Energy and about 300 to 350 volunteers from across the United States. And we looked at when I was on it, ways to make new construction more energy efficient, as well as retrofit existing homes. One of the things we found, we looked at the results of hundreds of blower door tests, and we found that the average home could leak as much as 20 air changes per hour. Now, Mr. McNabb builds a very tight home. I'm sure Mr. Anderson builds a very tight home. But there are a lot of builders that don't know how much they're leaking. And to ensure good indoor air quality, homes for decades were built intentionally leaky so you didn't have problems with mold and mildew, buildup of cooking odors, stuff like that. So when I started doing these blower door tests, they found homes were pretty leaky, much more than they needed for good indoor air quality. I've seen the standard for indoor air changes per hour come down to where in the 2015 code and 2012 code, it was 3 air changes per hour. Now, that's considered a pretty tight home. In conversations that Regional had with builders in Colorado Springs, they relaxed that to 5. But to give you an idea of some numbers, if I have a home up here that's 2,000 square feet, that's doing 3 air changes per hour, and we have a really cold day, say minus 20 outside. This past winter was not indicative of our normal winters. And I'm 65 degrees inside, that's my target temperature. I'm burning about 30 to 40,000 BTU per hour just on air leakage, infiltration. So it can be a very significant problem. Now, to help Mr. Anderson out here, where's Carl? There he is. I have found a firm in the Springs that says they'll come up here and do blower door test with no other testing done, no infrared or anything, for about $400. And if the builder passes it within that 30 minutes, $400. If they were leaky, it's going to cost them a little more. But it can be done for $400. And I have a feeling with the adoption of this code,
competition is going to take place in the marketplace, and you're going to have more companies doing this because there's going to be more tests. And I really think we're talking $250, $300 for a contractor that does 30, 40 homes a year, sign a contract with one of these guys. So we've got the price down by less than half of the $800. And you will find leaks in places you could never even think about it. And as builders learn where they're getting these leaks, the price is going to come down because they'll fix it before they get tested. The other thing I'm prepared to do, I've been working on this, to help get the builders, the architects, anybody else, framers in this community up to speed on this. I've been putting together a PowerPoint presentation to show them the differences between the 2009 code and the 2015 code, so that they hit the ground armed with as much knowledge as possible, so that they pass all the inspections, not just blower door, but the inspections from regional the first time. And I think after they've seen this presentation, gone through a couple of homes worth of inspections, they'll build it exactly per code the first time, and it won't have a problem. Now, to my personal experiences, I designed and built my own home. Very energy efficient home. I'm on propane. I'm heating about 4,400 square feet. It's a one-story ranch with a full walkout basement. I have no heat in the basement. That's turned off. This morning at my home, it was about 19 degrees. The basement was 57 because it's super insulated. I burn about 200 gallons of propane a year. I have neighbors that I've done studies on. One home, 2,300 square feet, built with 2x6 construction. They burn about 1,400 gallons of propane a year. We have another home, 2,700 feet. They go over 2,000 gallons of propane a year. And this home is only 3 years old and had foamed in place open cell insulation, 2x6 construction. So if you do some of the things that this code requires, will the cost go up? Undoubtedly. Now, the $8,000 to $12,000 that Carl referenced that came out of the Board of Review minutes, that was my initial number. And it was based on having to go to the higher R value or lower U factor windows. R value and U factor, they're inverse of each other. Because to go to patio doors and big windows, it was hard to get these windows in the 0.32 or lower numbers. And it drove the cost up quite a bit. I had about $2,000 to $3,000 more in my estimate just for the windows. And let me ask you this. I hate to interrupt. We got to move forward. You conceded that Mark and Carl both build great houses that are well insulated. And Mark came up with a suggestion relative to the way he does things. Can we hold people responsible in a different manner based on their history, or is that not a possibility?
I think it is possible, and I'll tell you why. There's a technique called statistical quality control. And if I sample 100% of the first 10 items I'm trying to buy, or in this case, homes that are being built, and they meet, maybe every other one after that. And if those pass for the next 10, every third one. And you get to where the cost of some of this, like the blower door testing, becomes very insignificant. So I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility to consider that.
Good. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Council, anything else? No?
Yeah, I guess I'll weigh in on this one. It sounds like our builders are building houses that beat these standards already because they want to sell good homes. So to me, it sounds like this is not a need at the moment. I could see us addressing this in 4 more years, 5 more years, because right now it sounds like we're building efficient homes already. And so when we have a few homes come in that want to keep those standards at the base to save money for a lower value home, then they should be able to do that. But right now I think we're building luxury homes already that are meeting these standards. So I don't think this is a need I think this is a want. So, go ahead, Carol.
Well, the way the ordinance is written is that we would adopt a series of 2015 codes that includes the 2015 International Energy Conservation Code.
Correct.
We've had one speaker suggest that we not adopt that 2015 code and maintain the standards of the 2009 Energy Conservation Code. So there are a couple ways we could approach this. We could amend the ordinance to maintain the 2009 standards, or we could table this discussion until we see perhaps Mac's presentation on the difference between 2009 and 2015.
I think that a visual would help out making the decision, because to me it does sound like we're already building efficient homes just so we can sell them. But it doesn't sound like this is, I would like to see a presentation if that's okay.
If that's the case, then we would need to table or postpone.
You would continue the public hearing and table your decision until you are through with your public hearing. And you would continue it to a date certain.
I asked Mac, when could you have that presentation for us?
2 weeks, sir.
2 weeks. Council, would you? Go ahead, Kelly.
I just have a question for staff. With our relationship with regional building departments and with, how long do we have with which to make this decision? What are they expecting of us? Not to say that they're driving that, but I would just like to know
it's a very important
that
question.
relationship is important to our everyday work here. So just so we have that information before us, what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a very important question. Regional intends to implement the 2015 codes on June 1st. So we have through May to be able to make a decision. But Kelly, you bring up a very good point about the relationship with our building services agency. It was nearly 5 years ago that Woodland Park was left without a service for building when Teller County decided no longer to serve Woodland Park. And in 2013, I scrambled to look for an outsource that was going to cost the city upwards of $140,000 a year, in addition to all the fees that were associated with building services, and that the fees for the builders were going to be equal or more than what Teller County currently charges. Right now, our services with Pikes Peak Building Department give a substantial break on residential permits. So our contractors are saving money as a result of being with a very good service. And if Woodland Park decides to use a different set of codes that makes for the agency that is serving us a difficult review. So I think it's an important consideration that we are receiving excellent services as well as a good fee base for the service that we receive. And I just wanted to end with one bit of information. Since January 2016, so for the last 2 years, RBD has issued 88 single-family homes, and the average valuation for the single-family home was $353,804. These are more than median value homes. Is that right, Ms. Case, in terms of the median average sale?
It is.
So
that's about an average sale.
That is an average sale. So Ms. Case also brings up a very good topic of affordable housing, and it is a very complex issue. And it is more than just building energy efficient homes. So I'll
Thank you, Sally.
conclude.
Thank you, Sally.
Mr. Mayor, I have one more question, or actually a statement, and I would just like to say, and I appreciate the position. I was here on staff when regional building came on board, and it was a very smooth transition, but I would just have to comment that I think we need to remember who our customers are, and I believe that regional is a vendor, and our customers are our residents and our folks in our town that are building our homes and doing the work here. So I just have to remember who our customers are. I appreciate what you've said, Sally, and I do know the painstaking that we went through in establishing that relationship. I would suggest maybe food for thought, and I would appreciate the presentation as well, that maybe we consider, like Ms. Councilwoman Harvey suggested, all of the 15 code and maybe reserve the energy code for a future time.
I think the motion that we'll need to make is to continue public hearing to a date certain, and I would recommend 3 May.
Thank you.
And ask for a presentation on the difference between the 2009 and 2015 energy code.
Mac, are you good with that? May 3rd? Would you be able to come back May 3rd with your presentation?
How about the rest of us? Okay.
If you want to talk, you can come forward. Carl, all we're doing right now is putting this off until we hear a presentation.
Right, but you're addressing Mac's schedule and not anybody else's here. So it's not just Mac that needs to be prepared. Other people need to be prepared also. So please, include the rest of us in that conversation.
Remember that we'd like to do this by June 1st. May 3rd is just our next meeting date. That gives everybody 2 weeks.
Mayor, I have no problem doing this presentation multiple times. So City Council first, builders and architects second. That's no problem for me.
Well, and understand, Carl and everybody else, just because we have the presentation that day does not necessarily mean that we'll make a decision that day.
But you need to prepare you either way.
Understand, and we will.
And we need to.
Okay, if I could have a motion then we wanted to resume the public hearing on May 3rd and have the next presentation by Mac at that time.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Suzanne?
Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Labar?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Saunier?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for that presentation and your comments, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Okay, we move on to item 8B. And Sally?
Thank you. Item 8B is Ordinance 1322, which is adopting the Teller County Environmental Health On-Site Wastewater Treatment System Regulation. Those are these regulations that Teller County is required to adopt per the state, and because Teller County serves as Woodland Park's Board of Health, then it is the city who adopts the Teller County codes for them to implement, for Teller County to oversee the OWTS regulations. And the septic systems in Woodland Park, we have just a fairly small area down by Morning Sun and Sunny Glen that is not served by our wastewater treatment
facility, our central system, that any new building that occurs within those subdivisions on the southeast side of town must comply with these regulations. And this code is simply written. We discovered that it was woefully out of date when we were doing the building code revisions, and so I recommend after public comment and conclusion of your hearing that you adopt Ordinance 1322. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions, council? Excuse me. Sounds pretty cut and dry.
It's pretty cut and dry.
I would make a motion to approve.
Public comment first.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Public comment? Nothing more from council. Anybody else on item 8B, ordinance 1322? Okay.
Go ahead, Kelly.
I would move to approve ordinance number 1322.
Thank you. And a second. Suzanne?
Thank you. Carr?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Labar?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Saunier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much, Alan.
May I just say one thing?
Please.
Kip, I'm sorry. I should have directed something towards you about it being wastewater and all of that. It's pretty cut and dry, the septic systems.
Yes.
Thank you. I just didn't, I forgot. I had a brain lapse. And,
You did.
but thank you.
You want to take a break? Okay. Council, we're about 2.5 hours in. Does anybody need to take a break? We're good to go. Okay. How about the audience? Okay, we're going to move on to new business. And Laura Pellegrino.
Thank you, Mayor Levy, members of council, and members of the public. My name is Laura Pellegrino, and I am the city planner for the City of Woodland Park. I am here before you tonight for a temporary use permit for an event called Movies Above the Clouds, special event. It is, an event coordinator is here, I believe, Miss Nicole Randolph. Is she here? Yay. I thought she had left. All right, so she is available to answer any questions if there are any after my brief presentation. We are here tonight because any special events, any temporary use permits that come before the staff that have hours that extend beyond 9 p.m. must come before City Council for final authority and decision. And Movies Above the Clouds is proposed, like the last 4 years, this is their 5th year, is proposed to go till 10:15. That's when they will turn off the sound for the movie, and they will begin their cleanup, and they hope to be cleaned up by 10:30 and out of there, which is how they have run their event for the last 4 years, and most likely how their event will run this year. So we are here with a motion to recommend approval that this temporary use permit for Movies Above the Clouds be approved tonight. That City Council approve the request by Ms. Nicole Randolph for a temporary use special event after 9 p.m. on the Midland Pavilion on June 8th, July 13th, and August 10th, 2018, as part of temporary use permit number 180-10018, subject to compliance with the following conditions. The sound and light systems must be shut off by 10:15, with cleanup to be completed by 10:30. Litter on the green, the parking lot, and surrounding areas, sidewalks, and alleys shall be collected and disposed of by the applicant. The applicant shall be responsive to all complaints received, if any, and the applicant shall be subject to all representations made in the TUP application. That concludes my presentation, Council. Are there any questions of me?
Council? No. I'll say this, in the past, as you alluded to, Nicole and everybody that's run that event has been very responsible. We've never had an issue. It's a great event for our community. I can't imagine going in any other direction. So thanks for your hard work and everything you do. Do you want to add anything, Nicole?
No. Nicole Randolph, 1211 Mountain Meadows Drive. I'm just here to answer any questions anybody might have.
What movies are you going to show?
We haven't picked out the lineup yet.
Anything else, Council? Val?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we've deferred some TUP things with liquor and things like that. This sounds like something we might want to think about adding to that list. Or I guess the only problem we have is we eliminate public discussion, which is problematic.
And it's a relatively short process.
Yeah.
I think that the planning department has a solution that they're bringing to you shortly.
Yes, Councilmember Carr, what you'll see in the next 2 weeks in your next meeting agenda is a first reading on an ordinance to amend the temporary use permit regulations for special events so that if they have occurred in the past, as this one has, with no complaints, no concerns, and no issues, that they don't have to come in front of council again. And that saves on posting requirements, it saves Ms. Randolph's time, it saves the event coordinator's effort. We don't have to post the site, we don't have to notify the property owners, and the event will occur successfully as it has for many years. So that will be coming for first reading next meeting.
Sounds like the right thing to do.
Thank you very much.
Wow, Al. Ooh, your mind melted here.
Council, can we get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Suzanne?
Case.
Yes.
Harvey.
Yes.
Labar.
Yes.
Levy.
Yes.
Swanier.
Yes.
Sawyer.
Yes.
Carr.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Suzanne. We'll move on to item number 9B, and Aaron Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council. Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, you have before you Resolution number 828. This resolution recognizes that the Council is in the process of recruiting a new city manager. And at the close of business on April 20th, 2018, to the point at which you select that new city manager, you will have what is defined as an interim period in the resolution. Your city charter requires that you have a city manager in place. The city manager is a chartered office. And so to that end, you are presented with Resolution 828, which, if passed, appoints Suzanne Leclerc, the city clerk, also the assistant city manager, as the interim city manager. I have prepared a memo for you that was in your packet that does inform you that Ms. Leclerc is qualified, ready, willing, and able to serve the city as the interim city manager. And it also provides a resume of Ms. Leclerc and with regard to her service to the city. I would recommend that after discussion, you adopt Resolution number 828 and appoint an interim city manager. What questions may I answer?
Like, no questions. If we have no questions, can I get a motion to consider Resolution 828?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Suzanne?
Thank you. Harvey?
Yes.
Labar?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Swanier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. And I'd like to just address council and thank you for your confidence, and I will do my best to make you proud. Thank you.
And I'd like to thank you for all the work that you have done.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
We're
council.
very fortunate to have you, Suzanne. Thank you very much. Okay, we move on to Resolution number 829.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Resolution number 829 is before you. If passed, this resolution will accept a gift in the amount of $8,235 plus some change, which is the result of a insurance policy purchased by a woman who has recently deceased, and she named the Woodland Park Police Department as a beneficiary in her insurance policies. Again, if you adopt resolution number 829, you accept that gift to the police department. Are there any questions that I can answer?
Go ahead, Paul.
Will we have public comment on this?
We will.
Thank you.
We have no other comment from council. We'll start with the public comment, and Kelly Johnson. You just give us your name and address, please. What microphone are we using? There we go.
Okay. Kelly Johnson, 200 East Gunnison. I proposed this to the chief of police. I asked him if he would, on behalf of the police department, refuse the money so that we as the family can pay her bills as she wanted done. He said he would do that. Enough said. Done. And next thing I heard, it was going to city council. After I continuously tried emailing him, phone calls, he won't return my calls. And 2 days ago, I was notified to not call the police department back. So that's where I am now.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes?
Mayor and council, it's important to clarify the record. The chief of police has no authority to decline or accept such a gift, and the chief of police knows that. So that is the reason that the chief of police referred this matter to the city council, and that is why this is before you tonight.
Thank you. Josh Friesma? I hope I pronounced that right. No. You'll do it for us now.
You did pretty well. My name is Josh Friesma, address 2858 Sunnywood Avenue, Woodland Park, Colorado. So just part of the reason I'm speaking is I am a member of Teller County Search and Rescue, and we were approached on a similar matter, and I was asked to research this matter for Teller County Search and Rescue. I'll try to keep this short in the interest of time. I can pull my notes up here. So first of all, it was actually an annuity, not a life insurance policy. Slight difference there. But yes, the police department was identified as one of the payees of that annuity. When a person purchases an annuity, those monies are no longer a part of the estate. Miss Carol Colby was the person who was deceased in this situation. She specifically chose the police department. I spoke to a financial advisor, and her comment was, nobody accidentally puts anybody on an annuity. You have to find out their tax ID, you have to find out their address, all that information to put them on. So this was a very intentional act by Miss Carol Colby to choose to pass this money on to the police department. And specifically in her will, Ms. Carol Colby identified the estate as being used to pay any remaining debt. Again, as I said before, an annuity is not part of the estate. She specifically mentioned the home at 200 East Gunnison as one of the assets to be sold, as well as many other assets that is written in the will. And so there are plenty of funds available to cover this debt within the estate left by Ms. Carol Colby. And also within there, Ms. Carol Colby selected a clause that anyone who chose to keep any of those assets, if they want to keep that home, that they then take on the debt. So by asking the police department, they're attempting to pass off that debt, bearing that debt onto the police department. So in our decision with Teller County Search and Rescue, we saw it quite clear that Ms. Carol Colby had sought to use these specific funds to give back to her community, to support these organizations that support our community. And so I just want to speak on behalf of those that she was trying to support through this in there to help. I would like you to choose to just make sure that these funds do wind up where Ms. Carol Colby asked, so that they can enable our police department to serve our community better.
Thank you very much. Sure, we'll let you speak again. Take a couple of minutes.
To address some of the things he said in the will, you all should have a copy of the will. I supplied it to your city attorney and to the police chief, as well as search and rescue. Nowhere in the will does it say that if you claim the property, if any of the family members claim the property, that we are responsible to pay for it. It is legally, we are not responsible to pay it. We are personally not responsible to pay any of her debt. I have asked all organizations who have been left money to respectfully refuse the money so that we can pay the bills so we don't have to sell her assets. Why that gentleman thinks that there's money in the estate and how he has proof of that, I would like to know, because there is $0 in that estate, and I'd like to know how he feels that it is, since he wanted to speak before. She did not set up these annuities for these 4 organizations. She set up these annuities to live comfortably and to be able to pay her bills. She didn't set these up for Woodland Park Police. She didn't set them up for Teller County Search and Rescue. It was not intended for each of these organizations. This was for her to live on. What was left was supposed to go to these organizations, and weeks before she died, she was in the process of trying to change these beneficiaries. She contacted her broker, who set these up initially, to find out how to change these organizations as beneficiaries. We contacted the annuity companies themselves to find out how she changed it, and unfortunately she passed before she could. It's not that she set these up for these organizations. She didn't look in the future and say, I'm going to set up all this money for these people. It was what was left of her money. And again, I don't know how Teller County Search and Rescue can say that there's money in the estate. They have no proof of that. And if they do, I'd like to see it. I won't get into Teller County Search and Rescue because that's a whole other situation that doesn't involve City Council. But I'm asking you guys to make an unbiased decision regardless of what City Council has done. I also have 2 requests from City Council. One being, I would ask that you guys would respect her wishes and let her bills be paid. I have said, this also went public, was on the news. I said on the news, I've said to the police chief, I said to the fire chief, ambulance chief, and to Teller County Search and Rescue that if the money is returned to the estate, I would, after all the bills are paid, I would, as executor, turn around and donate what was left back to the organizations. It's not that we want to keep the money for ourselves. We just want to pay her bills to save her house. That's ultimately the goal in doing this. The other point I would like to make is she didn't leave this money to repay anyone for what they did. Her intention years ago, 20 years ago when she did this, was not to say, oh, I'm going to repay them. I'm sorry. It's the police's job to come when they're called. It's Teller County Search and Rescue's job. Teller County Search and Rescue has falsified things saying they saved her, and they didn't. It's the ambulance service's job to come when they're called. Nobody has to leave them money. And my request one is, if all organizations agree to refuse the money, I ask the City Council follow suit. If Teller County decides to claim the money, which they have stated with 2 different news outlets that they are receiving the money, then proceed with accepting the money through Allianz Life Insurance Annuity, because that is the one who all 4 organizations are listed as beneficiaries. If Teller County Search and Rescue claims it and the 3 other organizations disclaim it, they get all of the money. There was no contingency for it to go back to the estate unless all 4 organizations refuse the money. So I'm asking that if all 4 organizations refuse it, that you guys, or the other 3 organizations refuse it, that you guys would refuse on behalf of the police department.
Thank you.
Do any of you have any questions?
Do you have any written or point of contact that she tried to change this annuity?
I have witnesses that she was trying to change the annuity.
In writing? I mean,
No, I don't have it in writing. I have 2 witnesses who were health caregivers of hers who she talked to it about. I have one additional additional person who would come help my grandma on occasion that she also said that to as well. And my mom, who is here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Council, any other questions?
I just have a comment, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor.
Please.
I've been through this recently with the loss of my mother, and there are very, and an attorney can support this, I'm sure, but there are many laws that respect and govern an estate of someone. And this annuity, I have them, my mother had them, and there are single-page beneficiary statements. That's all that's required to change a beneficiary. and that be signed, etc., so that that's in writing. With the absence of the person, all that anyone, be it a court of law or this council, has to rely on is what's written, and those are the wishes that must be respected. I express my condolences that didn't get done. If those were her wishes, it's very unfortunate, and it happens a lot. However, it's difficult to make a decision based upon anything other than hearsay or words when the documents speak for themselves. And that's unfortunate. It happens a lot. So I just have to make that statement. I sympathize, but it would not be responsible to not honor the written word and the signed word of an individual. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. That said, do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make the motion to accept certain life insurance annuities as specified in Ms. Colby's annuity. And I'd also like to make a comment similar to Kelly. I've been the executor of several estates over the years, for young soldiers to my parents. And while family members have come to me before and expressed that they felt the lost one had intended to do something else, the point is we must honor her wishes that were written and acknowledged legally. And that is the reason that I would recommend acceptance of this annuity.
And it
Sounds
would,
good.
and the record would reflect that the motion would be to approve resolution number 829.
Thank you.
Second.
Which is an acceptance.
In a
right?
second.
Which
That is an
accepts.
acceptance.
Thank
We
you.
have a motion and a second. Suzanne?
Labar,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Soinier,
Yes.
Sawyer,
Yes.
Carr,
Yes.
Case,
Yes.
Harvey.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Suzanne. Okay, we'll move on to public comment, and we'll start with Tony Perry.
Tony Perry, 330 Ponderosa Court. Felt compelled to come tonight because of an article this week in the paper. In November, I came before this council and expressed some concerns and thoughts about the Downtown Development Authority. After that meeting, a lot of the board members of the DDA asked why I hadn't come to them first, and so I'll address that here in a second. But basically, what I asked them to consider was to look at coming up with a process whereby TIF could be determined, and I think they've done great work with that in the period since. Now, about 3 weeks ago, board member Coy challenged me to step up and look at some of the discourse that was happening in the social media and some of the other things that were flying around in the last couple of months. I took that challenge seriously, and I started looking into going back to 2001 with the inception of the DDA. And my initial kind of thoughts I presented to the DDA board last Tuesday, not this Tuesday, but last Tuesday. I did speak with board member Coy the night before for about an hour, I think, telling him my concerns, telling him what I wanted to address, and wanted to hear his thoughts and wanted to kind of put him on notice. I did present a 4-page document, which was pared down from about 14 pages based on our conversation. I did respect some of his wishes to cut out some of the detail of our discussion. I've presented that to you only because with the article this week and the headline, which I felt was a little bit sensational and not necessarily representative of what I was trying to respectfully communicate, I thought I would bring you the source document that I provided the DDA. And as with them, with you, once you've reviewed it, if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer, but I would suspect you're going to review it first, and then I'm welcome to, I'm free to come back anytime to address the DDA or the council.
Questions for Mr. Perry right now? Anybody? Thank you for this. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on. I think it's going to be a good time for Tanner Coy. Is Tanner here? Tanner's, oh, there he is.
Good evening. Tanner Coy, 240 East US Highway 24. I've been told by about everyone I know not to say anything about this, but I'm this close to taking that advice. I'm just not there. So I want to say to the citizens of this fine city that if any of you have any concern about myself, my emails, my peers on the DDA board, and what we are doing to represent your interests and to bring about change for the better in local government via the DDA, you know where to find me and us, right downtown, 7 days a week, where, speaking for myself at least, you can come in and see me anytime, and you can ask any question about anything, and you will get an honest and transparent answer. Please, please see through the dishonesty that is being the propaganda. Let's just call it that. See through it and know that your best interests are at the heart of every member of the DDA board, and we're doing the best we can for you. Are there any questions for me?
Isn't this in the court's hands? I mean, why are we talking about this?
You know, I think it should be.
Oh, this is not. I thought you had something going on with DDA and all that. No, I have no questions about your character. I think you contribute a lot to the DDA and to this community, and I respect that.
I will echo that, Paul. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Sorry?
I'm okay.
Good?
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to Donnie Beeson.
Oh, see, I'm on.
Donnie Beeson, 642 Northwestern Place. Man, I was a lot fresher 2 hours ago. Yes. I consider it very much a privilege to be able to present to the new face of council tonight and to a newly re-elected mayor. I hope within this short presentation you'll excuse this cold because I am a fine recipient of a parting gift from Allegiant Airlines. I'll get back to Allegiant Airlines here in just a moment. When last I stood at this podium, we talked about the sense of renewed teamwork in setting a standard by our council and our new mayor of re-electing and the leadership and transferring that, of course, in the partnership with the city manager. What I realized I didn't do is I gave you a recipe and I didn't give you anything to cook. So I remembered one other thing that was talked about at the candidates forum, and it was echoed by a few people, not everybody, but a few, and they said this: it's hard to do business in Woodland Park. Allegiant Airline feels that too. It's hard to do business in Colorado Springs. What I would like to present to council tonight, and as a fresh council, I hope you take serious consideration for this because I believe there's a bonding program that can bring this community a lot closer, and it centers around business appreciation. The technical term is business expansion and retention. Short of having business attraction, that's your only other option. It's the care and feeding of your local businesses. What I'd like to do is present to council as you occupy seats on your various boards. I would like to be able to come in and talk to you about this program because I have some knowledge about it and show you how it could fit into your various programs and get skin in the game from everybody. The leadership coming from our city manager and our mayor. I talked to Darlene Jensen relative to the Main Street program, looking at the Economic Vitality Committee and possibly retitling that into that BEAR program, Business Expansion and Retention. I can assure you there's room at the table for the DDA too, and I'd love to talk to the DDA about that. And these programs never work without a Chamber of Commerce. You have to have the Chamber there. But there's one other element for a business appreciation program that I also heard at the candidates forum is when the question was asked, the city's responsibility to our school systems. Noel, I think your son would be a prime candidate to talk to about bringing the graduates that are coming out of our high school into a business expansion and retention program side by side with these various factions, and to learn how that all works. Talk about internships, school to work programs, and you know, if we actually do this right, and we can do this right, incubators will come and knock on our door. The DDA can easily be overwhelmed with people going, hey, it may be hard to do business here, but after May 2018, we saw a renewed energy in our local businesses, and once you're here, by golly, it's a good place to do business. I asked this question to a recent intern or an insurance company. If somebody came in and says, hey, what's it like doing business here? There is so much low-hanging fruit here, it's just absolutely amazing. I really hope that all of our businesses can, through this unified program and through council and city, have this program to where the answer is exactly that. It's a wonderful place to do business here, a little tough. I'm going to leave you with one parting comment. If anybody's got a cell phone, it's very interesting. Somebody look at Wikipedia. Do Woodland Park and look at Wikipedia, and then hit arts and culture, and then tell me what it says. Again, low-hanging fruit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next I have Kurt Grinna.
Late night, huh? I remember a couple of late nights when we had that resolution to go past midnight. I don't think we're going to do that this time. Thank you. Certainly want to be on the record. Does anybody want any good news?
We'd like your name and
Good
address.
news. Come on.
Have your name and address to start, please.
That's the good news. My name's Kurt Grinna. 216 Patricia Point, Woodland Park. I didn't get a rousing response. A couple of items. This is going to be real quick. About 20 years ago, 20 years ago, some local citizens started the idea of the Pikes Peak Regional Medical Center Association. Fairly soon, that got into a volunteer-driven, grassroots project of creating a vision, and then spending 18 years turning the vision into a nurtured, successful business, as you know. The reason I'm bringing this up now is because I do it whenever I get a chance as an advocate for that project, but especially since this is huge for our community. The University of Colorado Health has purchased the hospital business. My organization, our organization, the association, actually sold the building about 3 months ago in anticipation because we knew the UC Health thing was coming along. So it was all part of one deal that stretched over about 6 months. So now UC Health owns the building, they own the business, and they are going to town. This took place as of April 1st. Please don't think this is a joke. I was going to ask if they could make it like April 2nd. And nobody saw that was a good idea. Anyway, they are in charge. I'm blown away. They are going to transform this business. I want to use the word upward because I'm going to come back to upward in a few minutes. Upward, upward, upward. We have had this as a vision for 15 years. This achieved what we visioned about 15 years ago. To get the business into a place where it was valuable and wanted enough by a major prestigious organization like UC Health that they wanted to buy it. This wasn't a fire sale. They bought it because they saw an extremely high value opportunity, and they're going to make a huge difference in this community. Just a couple of things that you may not have heard. The building, I said we sold the building. The hospital stays a hospital. Some people say, geez, is it going to turn into a something? No, it's not going to turn into a something. It's going to turn into a more successful hospital. It's 140 or so high-paid professional permanent employees. Will still be high-paid permanent employees, bringing in about a $12.5 million payroll to our community. Morale in the hospital amongst the employees is very high. In organization changes like this, I've had a lot of organization changes, always means morale hit. Always means a morale hit. Doesn't matter what it is. The morale's great. I'm blown away. Several people talked about volunteers, and I wasn't going to say this, but when we talked about it, I added, as everybody may know, this was built up until May 1st or April 1st by grassroots volunteers, none of whom were paid. We accumulated about 25,000 unpaid volunteer hours in building this organization. That's about 12 person years of volunteer time, all unpaid, by people who have other things to do. I want to point out, for something I'm following with in a minute, that about 6,000 of those hours were mine, and about 6,500 hours of those were my wife Susan. Both of us get to retire. As of, I had a meeting with the CEO tonight, and we kind of said, finally, it's all yours. So that's great. It's been just an unbelievable inspiration watching this happen over the last 6 or 7 months. Second good news. The association, as you know, is responsible for the overall campus, and it has been an unbelievable honor. It's been the honor of my life, seriously, even more so than my business. I guess I won't say more than my marriage. Second to my marriage, how's that? To lead this thing, it has been fantastic. And the third project that we did as an association was the Forest Ridge skilled nursing facility. We did it like we do other things. We nurtured it, and a private company came in and did it. We believe in free markets and private business. Forest Ridge is now basically family owned by a local family. There was some change in ownership after the first year. Here's the news. In the last couple of days, Forest Ridge was awarded the 5-star rating by the state and national level CMS. CMS is something for Center for Medicare and Medicare Services. Basically, that's the division of the government that runs all health care in the United States. They have a program where they rate all facilities. They come around once every 2 years and look under beds, look in closets, talk to patients, do surveys. First-time participants don't get 5-star ratings. Forest Ridge did. 5-star rating from both Medicare and Medicaid. That's important to all of us here, because that will increase. People pay attention to these ratings. If you have a loved one that's going to go into a nursing center, you will look at those ratings. And I'm confident that this is going to increase the level of business and quality that we can bring to town. The 100 or so employees at Forest Ridge, high-paid, professional, permanent positions, bringing in about a $4.5 million payroll. I think I have that right. Deserve your thanks for achieving this. I hope when you see them, because they're all over there's probably a few people in here, say thank you, because it's the people who do this. As you know, there's one. Say thank you right here. The people did this. I didn't. I'm not taking credit for it. I said upward a few minutes ago. I'll say upward again. Upward, huge. Quality of life, business economic development. About 18 years ago, when I first started working on this project and spending way more time than I ever thought I would on this thing without getting paid. Another project started at the same time, which was the DDA, and it was impossible to ignore that these things were at the same time. In fact, as I remember, the two charters were signed in the same month. The DDA charter and the campus charter. If that's off by a little bit, it's not off by much. And so I've watched, as a business person, it was a real interesting kind of case study for me to watch an overtly free market enterprise versus a government bureaucracy. And I think we all have to say that free market, at least in this single case, one, the campus is generating an $18 million payroll, and that's going to increase significantly just in the next few months. The DDA has a $6.5 million, mostly unsecured debt, and a scar that you can see from a satellite. Why am I saying that? Because I think this is an upturn. This is great news too. Here's the good news. I've been paying a lot of attention to this for 12 years. I've been involved in some of the projects, talked to all the parties, been to a lot of the meetings, watching it pretty closely. Been very depressed by its progress until recently when the new DDA board come in, and this is upward. The new board has transformed this thing. They inherited a mess, and they are doing a phenomenal job of dealing with the mess. Is it a mess? You bet. Because it started out as a mess. Will it be a mess next year? Yes, but it'll be a lot less. And I know that I have some confidence. My confidence comes from my track record in business, my track record in having the honor to create millions and millions of dollars of new wealth in our community through the campus. And so with that confidence, I say that the DDA is doing almost everything right, which is a miracle because it's all unpaid volunteers. It's a miracle. I think that gives me some modest credibility in this thing. So how is my view so radically different from the view that Park State Bank is spreading around the community through its president, Tony Perry? Tony Perry has been on a speaking tour of anybody that will listen, newspapers, letters to the editor, on and on and on. Social media, not very much of that, but a little bit of it, excoriating individuals and practices and so on in the DDA. I'm sure almost everybody. So how could we be so radically apart? How could that be? I've looked at that a lot. I want to be fair. I want to look at it a lot. And here's what I think. I'm going to end this really quickly. I think it's not a coincidence that this sudden disagreement between Tony and I, who have usually seen pretty much the same based on our conservative backgrounds, I think it's not a coincidence that the DDA is involved in a very, very difficult litigation right now that threatens to take public lands, give it to private owners, and if they're successful, the private owners will get a windfall. The problem here is Park State and Tony Perry have given up their belief in the sacred American principle of rule of law. They're not content to let the court decide this, to sit back and just let the court go through its action over the next month or two. Instead, they are engaging in the, what's the old term? Politics of personal destruction. They're targeting Tanner Coy. They're targeting other board members. They're making threatening calls to the board members, all on the record, basically trying to force the DDA to give up on its attempt to defend our interest in defending the city's land. I shouldn't say the city's because the city doesn't have land, the people's land. And that's what's at stake. They are paying dearly for this. These people are going after them personally, they're going after their business, and it's hurting their business. They're harassing them with core requests, taking all their time. It's not a coincidence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Please. Yes, sir.
I just want to address one thing, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, I'm going to let Mr. Perry respond, and then you can go well.
Mr. Grannon, I brought this for you. Okay. First of all, if you look on the public record, I announced myself as Tony Perry, 330 Ponderosa Court. Second of all, if you look on the record with the public trustee, it's quite possible that my employer does do business with a lot of the DDA board members who I respect tremendously. I've said from the beginning, I haven't gone after anyone personally. I've said from the beginning, and I'm talking about 2002, I've never seen a group of well-intentioned, in some cases very intelligent beings come together and make poor decision after poor decision. When you talk about free market, I am in no position to weigh in on the legal case. That's not what I'm talking about here. Mr. Coy challenged me to look at issues that were being posted in social media because he was concerned about some of those postings, mainly emails between DDA board members. And all I called out was not making a personal attack. I was saying it's time that the DDA start using good judgment. I believe personally the property should be mothballed. I said that in 2009. I said that last fall. What I mean by that is free market. Mr. Brenna, he and I supposedly believe in free market together. I believe that every board since 2001 had an aspirational dream of everything that was going to happen. In 2006 and 2007, the city gave the land to the DDA so that they could work with 12 developers and sold. What? Yeah, sold. Fine.
Quiet. Let him continue. Please.
So real quick, I'll finish this up because I'd be happy to. We're having lunch on Tuesday. We can finish this discussion. The point is, the DDA acquired the property so that they could give the property to 12 developers for zero cost, with the idea that they would build buildings, create the delta or the TIF that would fill the coffers to pay back the DDA debt. Then we had Tim Hall come to town with this grandiose plan from a group from California. Now we're talking about turning it into an RV parking lot. Okay, all I'm saying is that I can't weigh in on the legal. I'm not an attorney. The court will settle that issue. That's between two parties. What I have concerns with is poor judgment from the DDA board members, which this council is responsible for. What I'm concerned with is DDA board members using personal emails to excoriate other businesses in town. And it's not made up. It's on the record, okay? And I was asked to explore it. And that's what I've done the last 3 weeks, and you see the beginnings of that. So you can ignore it. We're talking about poor judgment. We're talking about improper use of communication by board members. That can be fixed, because I agree with Mr. Grinham. These are very well-meaning business members who have committed free time to make this better. I think they have improved it. I think they understand it better than ever. But I will still go back to the point that you still have to do business right. You're representing the city, and we can hold you accountable. Bottom line is my employer does not benefit from any of this. I would argue that the legal case, this whole issue, should have been resolved a long time ago. I go back to blaming Mr. Brian Fleer, the executive director, who, by the way, the board of directors was responsible for managing and providing oversight to. That's where it starts. So I do give kudos to the current board for improving the processes, for taking it seriously, Mr. Coy for better understanding the finances, but I will not, as a citizen, accept that it's acceptable to say some of the things through email, through social media that this board has done. I gave a very clear, delineated timeline of how we treated, I say we, the city of Woodland Park, through the DDA board, treated Natural Grocers in this process. I'm a believer that Natural Grocers didn't need a TIF deal. I agree completely. We should have told them that from the beginning, bottom line. So how we represent our community matters, how we do business matters. Some of these city council members, I'm finding out emails because I'm gathering everything. You know, I please ask you, use the city email. You don't need to use your personal emails because it becomes public record. So I will not accept that, Mr. Grinham. We can have that debate on Tuesday again if you wish. I'm glad I explained Machiavelli to you last fall and I brought you a book. You know, You can ask me any question too. Tanner offered, come and see the agenda. The agenda is very clear. We as a community, what do we want to accept as representation for us as a whole body? We're clearly divided, and it's unnecessary. Our bank, my employer, is a community bank. Without all of you in the audience who are small businesses being successful, we are not successful. And we know that. We felt that. We learned that in 2009. So I'm sorry. Just because the DDA board is doing better doesn't mean that they're still not reaching a standard that we should ascribe to. Bottom line, we can do better, Mr. Grenna. We can do better.
I got a question. I got a question. Why didn't you step up years ago and bring these points out? These guys are working their tails off, trying to improve this community. And we as a council are trying to bring harmony into this community. And here you are. I feel like I'm on Perry Mason's show, drudging up all this stuff. Bring up the emails. Bring them all up from the beginning to now. Let's put the proof on the table. I'm not going to accept your analysis of what's going on in DDA. This has been years, and that board has been hoodwinked by representatives of the city and council for years. And now they're trying to be very transparent and work. And we got a mess here. Where were you years ago? Where were you?
Thank you for that statement, and I'll just respond real quickly.
Thank you.
So I have been on record since 2002 that the DDA has been a mess.
Thank you.
Sorry. 2009, my employer did step up and in a big way support this community in a purposeful leadership way. So why am I up here? Mr. Coyne invited me to because he thought that if I looked at what was on the record, I would see something different than what I'm seeing. So you're right. It is my perspective. It is my opinion. I'm actually an IT guy at heart, a database guy. All this stuff I have started gathering from 2001. By the way, I've done only one core request so far. I've gathering all this data. I'm putting it in a database. I'll make it available to the entire community. So I will accept that challenge, sir. And I'm sorry, it's not going to turn out well for those without integrity. And transparency is not a good term. I would start using the word accountability.
Accountability is a very good term.
Yes.
And I ask you to be accountable for what you're saying today, tomorrow, and how you look at what has gone on in the past.
I will stand up here and be accountable anytime you want.
I like to see all those emails, buddy.
Sure.
Every one of them.
As soon as we get them gathered, absolutely. I'm working on it.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Val.
Thank you. Has nothing to do with the DDA, because I'm not involved.
So it has to do with this conversation?
Mr. Grenna brought up the UC Health transition. I happened to be there at the shift change when that happened. They saved my life that night. And so I personally am very grateful for that transition. Everybody had a great attitude that night. They were real thrilled to see that transition. And so it's a little personal comment. I apologize for that, but it's I think it's relevant that we have this wonderful facility and new management that's going to be a great asset to our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good. I've got a little different approach. Tony, I appreciate the fact that you and Mr. Grenna are going to speak together. I don't know that there's anybody in this room that doesn't want the DDA to succeed, that we all come together and try to figure this out. And so let me challenge both of you guys. You're leaders in the community. Let's see if the two of you can work something out. Let's see if we can move forward in a positive way instead of the way we're moving forward right now. Because, I'm sorry, Kurt, we're not going upward with this. I don't care what anybody says. We're not going upward. But there's a chance. There's a chance to go upward if we get all the right people in a situation where everybody agrees that we're going to try to get better. And I think we got the leaders in this room to do it. And so that's my challenge to you. Elijah Murphy.
Elijah Murphy, 204 West Midland Avenue, Woodland Park, Colorado. On over to the historic Ute Inn. Mayor Levy, congratulations on your election. Council, it's a pleasure to speak before you tonight on your first seating. And I want to assure the people that we are working extremely hard at the DDA to protect the interest of the taxpayer. Ms. Harvey, you made mention that you were an intelligence officer. I was an intelligence collector. I went out and I talked to people, and I built intelligence organizations, and I aligned people to help out the American forces. I helped stand up and reinstitute escape and evasion networks across southern Germany. I worked in a foreign culture. I worked with people, and I got very, very good at it. One of the things we need to identify when we're looking for a crime or an ethics problem is a victim. In order to have a victim, we have to follow either the physical damage or the money, because the person lost something somewhere along the line, and another person perpetrated that against them. So you always want to watch the money when following things. There was a guy, he was quite famous once, or should I say infamous, a guy by the name of Benito Mussolini. He said, "Pluck a chicken one feather at a time and nobody will notice." I was trained to notice. And then the other night I was thinking about how offended I felt that the entire DDA was called out in the message from the paper saying that the entire DDA suffered from ethics problems. And I heard Tony talk about it. Well, whenever it comes to being offended, it becomes a matter of opinion, because there is no victim. I was free to choose to be offended or not to be offended. There are no PC police, regardless of what people think, because opinions are like faces. We all have them. Nothing against people with faces. So at the end of the day, being constituted does not constitute being offended does not constitute being a victim. Being stolen from or physically harmed does. It is the rule of law under which we all live. That's one of the reasons I used to get up here and talk about the rule of law and the ethics and how we are supposed to act towards one another. Because one thing I definitely agree with the mayor and Tony Perry and Mr. Reiner about is we can do a whole lot better, and I promise you, there's going to be some astounded people when this thing is all over with. I wish I could release what I know right now, but it will come. Please keep in mind, don't let this be tried in the court of public opinion.
That's exactly, and I'm sorry, that's exactly what I'm looking for, and I'm looking for facts. Not opinions by him, not opinions by you, or opinions by him. I'm looking for facts.
Paul?
Facts. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
I'm done.
Just
I'm
be
done.
respectful of everybody.
Well, they're being disrespectful.
Just ask. Just ask.
They're being disrespectful.
Okay.
This should not be getting drudged up again. Bring the facts. Bring the facts. If you got facts, bring them. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay, we're going to move on to Mayor's report. I'm going to start by thanking Suzanne Leclerc. We just had an unusual election in many ways. A number of people that ran and
I'm going up to
over 2,200 votes. We come up with a tie. And I think it says a lot for our system because we had a revote and it came up exactly like it did the first time. So I think we went through the process without any real issues and we came up with some winners. The point is, it was done above reproach. Everything was done the right way. And so I want to make a special thank you to Suzanne for running the election, to Shirley for what a great job you did Darwin and everybody else that was involved in that process that's here today or not here today. I just want to thank you for that. It made the process real, and everyone's not thrilled with the outcome, but we don't all have to be thrilled with the outcome. But the process, I think, is really important, and so I just want to thank Suzanne and your whole staff for a great job in this election. I know it wasn't easy, so thank you very much. One event announcement Saturday, April 21st, this coming Saturday from 9 to 12, the 19th Annual Kids Fest at the Ute Pass Cultural Center. Always a great event. Carol?
No report.
Val?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Kelly?
I just have to take a moment to comment. I think I just have to ask to please, all of you, let's move forward. I think we've kicked this horse until it's dead, and he's really dead. I think we need to leave him there and move forward. Continuing this conversation is not productive. It's not solving any problems. It's only creating more and hard feelings. And we can't do better, as the mayor has said many times. We can always do better, and we can't do that if we keep reliving the past and kicking this horse. It's time to move forward and leave it in the past where it belongs, and let's try and do a better job going forward. We all make mistakes. We all make errors in judgment. I have, and I promise I'm not done. It's time. It's time. And this community deserves it. So let's get over it. Let's move forward. And let's behave like adults and make this place great. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I would like to apologize and say I'm sorry for my outburst. But that's how I roll. The fact is, I just want facts. I don't want innuendos, and we don't need to do it. I agree with Kelly 100%. I'd like to be very positive and create a lot of good things up here as we work and move forward. And on another note, now I'm calmed down, National Day of Prayer is coming up. I'm on a roll tonight. Forget about it. So, the National Day of Prayer is coming up May 3rd, and it's at the Ute Pass Cultural Center from 6 to 7:30. And you are all welcome to join. The National Day of Prayer is just one quick thing. National Day of Prayer was established in 1952 by a joint resolution of Congress and signed into law by President Harry S. Truman. And it's been around for a long time. And every week we get together and we pray. And we pray for our military, our schools, our local civil, political, and businesses and churches and their leaders. And we do seriously pray. And I pray for this body every week. And it is heavy on my heart that this community work together cohesively and we accomplish great things. And that's exactly why I'm sitting here. And I'm sorry for my outburst, and I wish if anybody would like to attend, please come and join. We have speakers. They speak for 5 minutes. We pray, and we move on. Thank you very much.
Noel?
Interest of time, I'll just pass on any council reports right now.
Hillary? Nothing. Okay. Thank you. Move on to the city attorney report.
I have nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Thank you, Mayor Levy. Before you, in your packets, the council's received a list of the boards, commissions, and committees for the city of Woodland Park. And what we've prepared for you is the list of the boards, the times they meet, and who the current council liaisons are at the moment. And we'd like for you to take a look at this, spend some time reflecting on it, get in touch with the department heads if you want to talk to us about any of these boards and committees, because the next time we meet, we'll ask you all to choose what boards and committees you'd like to be the liaisons on. So that's in your packet for you. Next is I'd like to just talk a little bit about the election. Thank you, Mayor Levy, and thank you, Shirley. The election was, all I could say is wow. It was new to us. We did signature verification for the first time, and Shirley and Darwin can tell you how much more time that took this election, how time-consuming it was. Every single ballot, they looked at the signature and compared it, pulled it up on the computer, and compared it to the Secretary of State's signatures. It was a long process. It was new to all of us. Shirley headed that project up, and it went very smoothly. Like we talked about, the election, the first night we got the results. 2 votes. Shirley and I couldn't believe it. 2 votes. That's all that the election was from the 2 candidates that we spoke of earlier. We wait for the UOCAVA ballots, the military ballots, to come in, and the ones with signature discrepancies to come in. They come in. 8 days later, we count those. A tie. Then we have a recount. It's a tie, and I was so grateful it was a tie, because that showed that the machines and the system worked correctly. The fun part was yesterday. We had a lot drawing for the candidates to pick who would be the next council member between Councilmember Sawyer and Councilmember Schaefer. I think the process went well. A lot of people didn't understand that that's dictated by state statute, that it's done that way. Not necessarily cards, but by lot. We could do dice, we could do many different things. I chose cards. People couldn't believe that that was in the actual state statute. So I just want to say that out loud. And I want to just thank everybody for their support during the election. It was a lot of work, and I couldn't have done it without Shirley. And Dar was new to our judge panel, but I was grateful to have him as well. He brought new insight. So I just want you to know that, and thank you very much. The last couple of things I have is that we are going to be doing on April 25th at 7:30 a.m. the new council orientation with Ms. Case and Ms. Labar. The department heads and staff are looking forward to spending that morning and that time with you both, and hoping we can answer any questions that you have about the city.
Suzanne, excuse me, can we invite the whole council to come to that if they'd like?
We like to keep it for the new council members, if possible, Mayor, and then, we'll regroup and have some different kinds of meetings all together, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit about CML. As council knows, there's 2 council members here that have approached me and asked me if I could sign them up for CML. I can't make that decision. That's a council decision. I spoke to Mayor Levy, and I wanted to just let you know a couple of things about CML. If council will recall, 2 years ago, when we had to save money as a city, one of the cuts that we made to the budget was we cut all of the council going to CML. We had it in the budget for all 7 to go. We cut it down to 1. And so last year we sent 1 member to CML, and then I actually went 2. This year I have some funds. I have one spot that's allotted to a city council member to go to CML, and I also have Mr. Buttery's spot. He had a spot in his budget to go to CML, so I can use that for any council member that would like to attend CML. And third, I have a spot because I am going to CML, but I am being covered by CIRSA. So my spot is open as well that I had in my budget to go. So we have about 3, maybe 4 openings if council would like that they can use, and the city can send folks to CML. So however you guys want to decide that, I need to know because housing is at a premium and the registrations are getting booked.
Council? Al?
Mr. Mayor, I have a proposition to throw out to council to consider. We've got a remainder in the city manager's budget under, I believe, I'm sorry, Mike's not here. He would give us the exact general ledger items, but I think it's 100-121-1100. We could move that to city council line item 100-111-3015 for all other CML and other council expenses. One of the things that's been talked about several times here is having a small per diem stipend or gas money or something of that. My thought was that the council might consider shifting that money over. We'd have to do an ordinance or some sort of thing. It would be a construct to move that as a budget supplemental. And then we'd have enough money. I think it's really important for at least the new people to go to CML. I find it tremendously instructive. I'd go every time if I could, because it's just a tremendous opportunity to learn about things. So that's something I'd like for us to consider maybe at the next meeting or something.
Council, let me ask you this. Who would like to attend CML? 1, 2, 3. So, Suzanne, right now we have enough money to send those 3?
Yes, sir.
Anybody else want to go? Council, if we have enough money, which apparently we do, and we have 3 that would like to go, can we get some kind of motion to send those 3 to CML, and we won't even have to move that money, Val, because apparently we already have enough.
Well, I was just considering
if anybody else wants to go.
Yeah.
And we can consider that in the budget this year.
Yeah.
And there's also opportunities to bring in folks from CML and do courses for us here at this location, which is cheaper than staying in a condo in Vail.
Suzanne, let's see if we can find for 4. I don't know if we can. Let's see what we have left. Because I'd like to go, and I'd be willing to bear the expense if we don't have enough. I don't want to change the budget just for me, but I'm happy that 3 of us will have great representation there. And like Val said, it's a good meeting, get an opportunity to meet a lot of people and really learn more about what our state's all about.
In other communities and things, I find that valuable too.
Do we need a...
I just want to reiterate that I have the correct individuals. I have Ms. LaBar, Mr. Sawyer, Mr. Carr, and possibly you, Mayor. Okay.
Okay.
Just to clarify, I've been to CML several times during my tenure as staff here as a finance director, and as I've said all along, my focus is on fiscal conservancy, and as much money, wherever we can save money, I'm saving money. So, no, thank you. I'm good.
Anybody else? Comments? Well,
I was supposed to buy one of those hats last year, and I never got around to it. So
maybe next year. I'm out.
Maybe after the.
I'll get you a hat. I'll get you a hat.
Anything
else, Suzanne?
Do any of the department heads have anything they'd like to add? I think we're good, Mayor.
Okay, great. I have no comments on written correspondence. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you all for being here.
The word is conservation, not conservancy.